If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 51. Ask Dumbledore for help? A mutually beneficial arrangement is better. Hogwarts headmaster's office. Dumbledore was staring blankly at everything around him, thinking about what to do next. He wasn't ready for Harry's final showdown with Quirrell. If he were to ask Snape for help, he was afraid that Quirrell would take the opportunity to do something they didn't know. And Snape was going to be watching two people now. He simply didn't have the time for anything else. How about asking Minerva McGonagall to help? Dumbledore shook his head quickly, dismissing the idea. Professor McGonagall is a woman of integrity and would never agree to spy on someone. Just when Dumbledore was at his wit's end, Lucas' voice came from downstairs. Headmaster Dumbledore, may I come in? Dumbledore adjusted his mood and said, Of course, Lucas, I'm glad you came to see me. It was still the round table where the two talked last time. There are still many sweets on the table. Seeing this, Lucas took out some candies from the lottery. Principal, do you want to try? Compared with the previous attitude, Lucas was obviously more respectful this time around, and this made Dumbledore very curious. What the hell happened that can make this mature boy become like this? Oh, cockroach clusters, one of my favorite snacks. After Dumbledore finished speaking, he threw a lifelike cockroach into his mouth. Lucas, what's the matter this time? Do you need something from this old man? Yes, Professor, I need your help. Lucas took out the letter he received on Halloween. He saved this letter at that time, just for this moment. Seeing the contents of the letter, even Dumbledore couldn't help frowning. Oh, Minister Orwell seems to have gotten carried away with rage. Headmaster, Minister Orwell is coming to visit. He said he is visiting England, but everyone can see that he is looking for trouble. Dumbledore nodded approvingly, but stopped talking. After a while of thinking, he returned the letter to Lucas and said, I remember you grew up in Austria. Who has taken care of you all these years? Lucas first showed a puzzled expression. It seemed strange why Dumbledore was asking this question. It's Aunt Vinda Rosier, does the headmaster know her? Of course, Vinda Rosier, the Thorny Rose of France, was a charming, proud, and powerful witch. Since you are an old friend of Aunt Vinda, it's time to... Not waiting for Lucas to finish speaking, Dumbledore shook his head regretfully. Lucas, I'm very sorry, in fact yesterday was my last day as the school's headmaster. I've been suspended and have to leave school today. Merlin. How could they do this? Lucas looked at the friendly old man in surprise. You are the greatest wizard of this century, they can't be so unreasonable. Thank you for speaking up, Lucas, I actually think so too. Dumbledore sighed when he finished. This time he was not pretending, but really felt helpless. He was planning to find some old friends after he left school. He just hopes that his suspension order can be revoked as soon as possible. Sorry, Lucas, I'm afraid I can't help you with this, but I will tell Minerva, at least you won't be taken away easily. This is Hogwarts, and you are a student of Hogwarts, don't worry. Of course Lucas couldn't rest assured. What he needed was the intimidation of Dumbledore. Seeing Dumbledore put on his wizard hat and prepare to leave, Lucas suddenly said, Headmaster, maybe I can solve your suspension order. Dumbledore stopped walking, and looked at the boy sitting on the sofa in surprise. Maybe he was afraid that he didn't hear clearly. The boy said again, You know, although my family is full of elderly people, the advantage of the elderly is that they know more people. And I'm planning to do business with the Malfoy family recently, maybe I can ask the Malfoy family to help. When Lucas finished speaking, Dumbledore was back in his seat. Seeing that Lucas has become completely different from before, Dumbledore understood everything. Letters from Slytherin students, suspension orders early the next morning. Behind all these things is the shadow of the blonde boy in front of him. This conversation is also a transaction, a deal that Dumbledore had no way to refuse. Dumbledore took out a box of sizzling bees and handed it over. Want to try it? Of course, Headmaster. Lucas took a candy and put it in his mouth. The sweet and greasy feeling immediately filled the whole mouth. Well, it's too sweet. The next day, Dumbledore looked at the headmaster's appointment letter on the desk with unprecedented seriousness in his eyes. Principal Dumbledore, Director Barty Crouch of the Department of International Magical Cooperation of the Ministry of Magic, led Minister Orwell of the German Ministry of Magic to visit the school. Minister Orwell said he wanted to talk to you about something. Do you have time now? Dumbledore took a deep breath and put the letter of appointment on the table into the drawer. "Bring them in, Minerva." As soon as the words fell, the sound of chaotic footsteps came from under the spiral staircase. Chapter 52, Anger from Centenarians. Looking at the few people who walked into the office, Dumbledore had a warm smile on his face. "Mr. Crouch, I haven't seen you for a long time, oh Merlin, and Minister Orwell, nice to meet you." As they greeted each other, Dumbledore led everyone to the sofas. Looking at the table full of sweets and more sweets, Orwell, the Minister of the German Ministry of Magic, was at a loss for a moment. In fact, Dumbledore is more famous in Germany and France than in England because Grindelwald was mainly active in these two countries. So for the wizards of both countries, Dumbledore was like Harry's place in the wizarding world of England. It is the savior, the person who helps them escape from the sea of suffering. Orwell also lived through that era, it's just that he was young at the time, but that didn't stop him from adoring Dumbledore. Besides, Dumbledore also avenged his dead big brother. "Headmaster Dumbledore, long time no see." Seeing Orwell's nervous look, there was a gleam in Dumbledore's eyes. "Mr. Orwell, Mr. Crouch, do you want to try the delicious cockroach clusters?" "Headmaster Dumbledore, we are here." Crouch kicked Orwell's shoe hard, interrupting what the other party was about to say. "Barty Crouch, Director of the Department of International Magical Cooperation of the Ministry of Magic. If you feel that he is incompetent because the position he holds is not important, that would be a big mistake. In fact, Barty Crouch was once a serious contender for Minister of Magic. If it wasn't for his son being suddenly exposed as a Death Eater, the current Minister of Magic will most likely be this man with a mustache and not the current bumbling fool." Headmaster Dumbledore, Minister Orwell came all the way to England, and the first stop was to visit Hogwarts. After all, this can be called the greatest magic school, and it also has a great headmaster. "Thanks for the compliment, I will personally take you around to tour the school." "No need." Crouch stopped. "I have taken Minister Orwell to visit." Minister Orwell is full of praise for the teaching environment of Hogwarts, right Minister Orwell? The sudden question made Orwell a little overwhelmed. He froze for a few seconds before nodding, "Yes, Director Crouch is right." After saying that, he looked at Barty Crouch suspiciously. He didn't understand what the other party was doing by talking in such a roundabout way. According to him, it is better to go directly to the topic. Crouch gave him a calm look. As someone who deals with Dumbledore a lot, he is well aware of the temper of the other party's love of students, if he directly enters the topic. Not everyone can bear the anger of this centenarian. Maybe some of them will be thrown out of Hogwarts. Dumbledore was also happy to relax, and he didn't say a word about the purpose of their visit. Not even a mention of the German Ministry of Magic. As if he didn't know about what happened. They chatted about some endless topics around the round table, and Orwell brought up Lucas several times, but Dumbledore cleverly diverted the topic. "Oh Merlin, is it this late already?" Looking at the afterglow of the setting sun outside the window, Dumbledore blamed himself. "It didn't affect everyone, right? When you're old, you forget everything when you're happy talking. It's really bad." Crouch shook his head with a wry smile. He kind of expected for Dumbledore to make things difficult. Not only Orwell, but he also tried to mention Lucas many times during the chat, but they were all dodged by Dumbledore pretending to be stupid. Crouch looked at Orwell beside him again, whose face was livid at this time, full of displeasure. "Ahem." Crouch cleared his throat. "Headmaster Dumbledore, we are actually here for one of your students." "Student? There are many little wizards in Hogwarts. Who are you talking about?" "Lucas Grindelwald, does Mr. Dumbledore know him?" Dumbledore looked up out the window as if he was trying to remember the name. "Oh. Come to think of it, he's a Slytherin's first year, very excellent, what's wrong with him?" Crouch looked at Orwell beside him, beckoning him to speak quickly. "Headmaster Dumbledore, I'm here this time to bring Lucas Grindelwald back for some questioning." Orwell speaks well, and he didn't directly say that Lucas was going to be arrested. Instead, "Please go back to the interrogation." Dumbledore asked calmly after hearing this, "Did he make any mistakes?" "We suspect he may have had something to do with the previous upheaval at the German ministry." As soon as Orwell finished speaking, he heard Dumbledore's laughter from the opposite side. "Mr. Orwell, Lucas is only an 11-year-old child, and he was on a night tour in Hogwarts Castle on the night of the accident. His head of house, Professor Snape, nearly deducted points from his house when he caught him. Sorry, but without sufficient evidence, I cannot hand over an underage child to you." Orwell stood up abruptly, looking down at Dumbledore. You shouldn't have taken him into school. Headmaster Dumbledore, I respect you, but I know Lucas Grindelwald better than you do. That 11-year-old kid is more terrifying than his father, and the Alliance will rise again in his hands if we don't do anything to stop him. Orwell's face was ferocious, obviously extremely angry. Dumbledore sighed, Orwell, I know she knows death has hit you hard, but you can't blame a child for everything. Child? I never regarded him as a child. His surname is Grindelwald. How could the successor cultivated by that man be a kind person? He, like his father, is an evil man and deserves to be in prison. Grindelwald. Dumbledore repeated the last name in a low voice. Could it be that after being given a name, one must be a bad person? Dumbledore stood up, and the powerful pressure knocked all the books around him to the ground. Crouch and Orwell, confronted by the centenarian's rage. The two felt that their throats seemed to be strangled, and even breathing became difficult. Orwell had underestimated Grindelwald's place in Dumbledore's heart. You must know that the two had formed a blood pact back then, and they were closer than brothers. Orwell should never have called Grindelwald a villain. It was this last sentence that annoyed the old man. Dumbledore calmed down quickly and the pressure that filled the room also disappeared without a trace, letting Orwell and Crouch breathe a sigh of relief. Orwell, who had calmed down, looked at Dumbledore seriously and asked. Mr. Dumbledore, can I understand that you want to give that guy shelter? Dumbledore frowned, but didn't answer right away. Everyone else in the headmaster's office looked at the old man in front of them, awaiting his final decision. Chapter 53, The Real Purpose of Lucas. Hogwarts outer hallway. This is the way to leave school. Orwell and his entourage passed by angrily. He stopped suddenly and looked towards the end of the corridor. Barty Crouch followed and looked over. What he saw was a blond boy walking towards them. The young man walked gracefully, and his deep blue eyes revealed warmth. Hi everyone, long time no see, Minister Orwell. Lucas Grindelwald. Orwell gritted his teeth and said the boy's name. In return, Lucas smiled happily. I didn't expect you to remember my name. I'm really honored. By the way, I have read all about the German Ministry of Magic in the newspapers. Minister Orwell, you have my condolences. Orwell lowered his eyelids, hiding the coldness in his eyes. Thanks for your concern, Mr. Grindelwald. After saying that, he resumed his steps and stopped again when he passed Lucas. Don't think that with Dumbledore's protection, you will be safe and sound. How long will his protection last? Hearing the whisper in his ears, Lucas smiled slightly. It seems that his goal has been achieved. Orwell and others who left were ignored. He looked at the Hogwarts tower. Earlier today, Lucius Malfoy said it when he delivered the headmaster's appointment. To beware of Dumbledore going back on his words. According to Lucius, the letter of appointment should be given after the other party has finished their part of the deal. But Lucas didn't do that. First, he trusted Dumbledore for who he was. Dumbledore, who has a lot of love, will never go back on his word, and he doesn't bother to do such a thing. Of course, just in case, Lucas also prepared a backup. And his backhand preparation was even better than Dumbledore's. The reason he went to such lengths to bring Dumbledore in. In fact, it is to convey a message to people outside. Dumbledore is sheltering Lucas Grindelwald. With such a backing, Germany and the French Ministry of Magic will be careful of any troubles they make. This is what Lucas is really about. Judging from what Orwell just said, his goal has obviously been achieved. Lucas, who was in a good mood, hummed a Scottish tune and walked towards the Great Hall. It is said that there are chicken legs tonight, he has to hurry back. Mr. Lucas Grindelwald, please wait. He heard someone calling his name behind him, which made Lucas stop and turn around to look. Hey, it's you, Disco Vampire. What? Cedric Diggory looked puzzled. Nothing, I know you, Prince of Hufflepuff, Cedric Diggory. Cedric hadn't thought that a man as famous as Lucas would know him. He happily shook hands with Lucas. Nice to meet you. I watched your game. It was very exciting. I am also a seeker. I look forward to playing against you. I don't think this date will be too far away. After Christmas, there will be a match between our two houses. I'll wait for it then. They just chatted a few words and Cedric, who had finished his meal, planned to return to the dormitory. Looking at the back of Cedric going away, Lucas stroked his chin, considering whether to do something about Cedric's death. Cedric Diggory, He has all the advantages of a Hufflepuff, it's just a pity that his young life was ended by a stinky rat in the end. Lucas walked into the great hall shaking his head and sighing. Delicious chicken drumsticks, here I come. In the blink of an eye, more than a month passed. In order to complete the set of achievements, Lucas crazily grabbed house points. As a result, the emeralds in Slytherin's hourglass are much larger than those of the other 3 houses. The little snakes of Slytherin were delighted, while the other 3 houses were not happy at all seeing how Slytherin might win the cup once again. Hermione seemed to have a rivalry with Lucas, also working hard trying to earn house points for Ravenclaw. In fact, the little witch just doesn't want others to think that she is not worthy of Lucas. During this time the Quidditch match between Slytherin and Ravenclaw was also successfully completed. The result is no suspense, Lucas caught the golden snitch again and it took even less time than last match. This also caused him a lot of trouble. I guess this is what they call suffering from success. Just like this moment. Lucas watched Hermione and Cho Chang who followed him from left to right and sighed helplessly in his heart. Lucas, come on. I have very important news for you. Draco came in like a hero. Lucas got rid of the 2 women and walked quickly towards his savior. Draco, I have something to ask you too, let's go back to the dormitory and talk about it. Finally back in the common room, Lucas breathed a sigh of relief. Tell me, what's the matter? Draco gave him a strange look at first. Then he said with great interest, you would never have imagined that that servant actually has a dragon egg, a living dragon egg. Servant? Lucas asked suspiciously. Oh, it's the big man who lives by the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Draco, you'd better not say Hagrid is a servant in front of Harry, or he will be angry. Okay, I'll pay attention next time. After Draco finished speaking, he looked at Lucas with great interest, as if waiting for his question. Lucas knew Draco was obsessed with dragons. Sighing in his heart, he decided to satisfy his friend's desire to show off. Then what kind of dragon is in the dragon egg? Judging from the appearance and color of the dragon egg, it must be a Norwegian ridgeback. The hatching process requires. Listening to the endless chattering of his friend, Lucas' mind wandered elsewhere. Now that the dragon egg has appeared. Then after the Christmas holiday, it's time for Draco, Harry, and others to go to the Forbidden Forest. In the Forbidden Forest, they will meet with Quirrellmurd who has to hunt unicorns to survive due to his body falling apart because of the possession. I don't know how little Tom has been doing lately. Does he still remember the man he met in Gringotts? Looks like it's time to follow along. Just in time to experiment with ancient elf magic on Voldemort as well. Of course, what is more important is the achievement points gained from exploring the Forbidden Forest. Chapter 54, Short but Busy Holiday Arrangements. December 23 RD. Starting today, Hogwarts will enter the Christmas holidays that are from the 23rd to the 27th. Excluding the time spent on the road, there is actually only a short 3-day vacation. But for the students who are at boarding school all year long, this short Christmas holiday is very important. Lucas walked out of the dormitory lightly. Compared with the classmates with big and small bags around them, he seemed a little different. Why is there a Christmas holiday? It's just a few days before the dragon is born. It's really too bad that I can't see him for the first time. Dragging the suitcase, Draco kept whining. You can choose to stay, of course, as long as your parents allow it. Lucas' proposal was strongly opposed by Draco. That can't be done. My father said that if I don't go back, he won't buy me a broom next year. Mr. Lucius Malfoy really accurately grasped his son's weakness. No wonder Draco has to go home in the face of the temptation of the dragon. The two chatted as they walked and after a while, they arrived at the Hogsmeade train station. Looking at Hermione who was already waiting beside the train. Draco said with a teasing tone, I won't bother you, Crabbe, Goyle, let's go. The two bodyguards boarded the train carrying Draco's suitcase along. The rest of the Slytherin laughed kindly as well. Riding the Hogwarts Express again. Lucas and Hermione still came to the end of the last carriage. Seeing Lucas put his suitcase on the shelf, Hermione recalled the scene when the two first met. Hearing laughter from the side, Lucas asked curiously, what's wrong? Nothing, just remembered something interesting. The two chatted about their impressions of each other when they first met. Lucas hadn't been kind from the start. The Hogwarts Express was traveling through the deserted wilderness and the carriage was filled with the laughter of little wizards. Lucas squeezed Hermione's hand tightly and looked out the window. He doesn't have much interest in Christmas. If there is anything good about Christmas, it is the holiday specials, and the platinum prize pool will open again. For the lottery, Lucas has always had great expectations. Lucas, look what I found. The carriage door was opened, and Draco walked in holding a book in his hand. What? It says in the book that the Norwegian ridgeback breathes fire when it breaks its shell, which is pretty amazing. Maybe it's because his name is related to dragons that Draco has been obsessed with dragons since childhood. But when he saw the mention of the dragon in front of him, he laughed like a fool. Lucas wondered if he was dropped on his head like Ron Weasley when he was a child. Where's your elegance, Malfoy? Where is your pride? Norwegian ridgeback. Hermione looked at the two of them since she had never heard Lucas mention dragons. Lucas explained the story in a low voice and Hermione exclaimed, "Is Hagrid crazy? That's a dragon. It's a dangerous creature. How can it be kept in a school? Hey, it's okay, it's still an egg, but it's about to crack." Draco explained nonchalantly, causing Hermione to roll her eyes and say, "Do you know how fast a dragon grows? In less than a month, it will be bigger than Hagrid's house. I advise you to send the dragon away as soon as possible, otherwise you will cause trouble, and if the Ministry of Magic finds out, the dragon will definitely be executed." "Oh, they can't do that." Draco immediately made a dissatisfied voice when he heard that the dragon would be executed. But he obviously listened to Hermione's words because he had at least more sense than Harry and Weasley. Full of thoughts, Draco got up and prepared to leave, but just as he was about to get out of the carriage, he seemed to remember something. "Lucas, do you know Nicholas Flamel? It's a very familiar name, but I just can't remember where I saw it. Have you started investigating the Philosopher's Stone?" Lucas shook his head silently. "I don't have any impression, I'll look it up for you when I get back." "Thank you so much, Lucas, I'll keep in touch." The reason Lucas didn't tell Draco directly about Flamel is because he is afraid of any accidents that could change the plot too much, since he's thinking of using it to his advantage. But it did let him know what to give Draco for Christmas. The train slowly approached the platform. The performance of the train is still stable, departing in the morning and arriving in the evening. "Lucas, you have to remember writing to me during the holidays, do you understand?" Looking at the reluctant Hermione, Lucas nodded with a smile. Cho Chang, who was waiting beside him, also said, "Lucas, we are waiting for your gift for Christmas, don't forget it." Lucas repeatedly assured them until the two women left together. Wiltshire. Lucas came home and heaved a sigh of relief. His body that had been tense all this time also relaxed. This is his home, and it's very safe here. "Wonderful holiday, Aunt Vinda, please don't wake me up these days, I will sleep until I wake up naturally." "I'm afraid your wish will not come true, my dear." Lucas looked at her a bit puzzled. Vinda explained with a smile, "You need to prepare gifts for your friends before Christmas. I believe that with your ability, you should have many friends, right? After Christmas, we still need to go to the Ministry of Magic with Mr. Malfoy, and we need to go through the formalities at the Diagon Alley store in person. Based on what I know about you, you will definitely do it yourself, right?" Seeing Lucas nod, she continued, "I also need to remind you, my dear, that the people from the German Ministry of Magic have not left yet, and you may meet them when you go to the Ministry of Magic." "Haven't they left yet? It's been more than a month," Lucas said in surprise. But soon he suddenly realized, that's right, they are all poor homeless people now. Chapter 55, Christmas Gift and Platinum Lucky Draw. As they spent the whole 23rd in the train, Lucas only had Christmas Eve to spare and get his friends' gifts ready. Afterwards, he just nestled in the study and read a book for the rest of the day. Vinda had directed the house elves to furnish the room and the whole manor to make it exude a Christmas atmosphere. "Lucas, I forgot to ask you one thing. The Malfoy boy came here before, and he said that you promised to give him an extra profit. Is there such a thing?" Lucas nodded and explained, "That's right, if these pure-blood families aren't promised some benefits, they won't do things for you kindly." Closing the book in his hand, he said with relief, "Don't worry, this profit belongs to the Malfoy family. Last time I talked about cooperation with him, I said less. At first I wanted to make more money, but I didn't expect to give it to their family in the end." Vinda nodded. She will be responsible for the store's income and expenditure in the future, so she must know those things in advance. Like this, the first day of the holiday passed. During this time period, Lucas did not forget to send Hermione a letter. Hestia seems to like Hermione very much, and she is very active in sending letters. Overnight, Suddenly there are many gifts under the Christmas tree in the living room. Looking at the piles of gifts, Vinda gave Lucas a surprised look. "Oh dear, I didn't expect you to be so popular." Lucas smiled slightly. Passing the gift in his hand to the other party, "Aunt Vinda, this is your gift." Seeing the women's perfume in the gift box, Vinda raised her eyebrows with a very satisfied expression. "Keep unwrapping your presents, I'll go out first." When she left, Lucas sat directly on the carpet. The first thing to open is the gift from the school professors. What Professor Flitwick gave was a book on how to use spells. Professor McGonagall sent a transfiguration guide. There are also notes from Professor McGonagall in this book, and it can be seen that she put quite a bit of effort. Professor Snape sent a bottle of Felix Felicis. It's very much his style, and the reason is also written on the attached card. The potion was Lucas' reward for earning so many house points for the Slytherin house. This awkward guy, even if he gave someone a gift, he still had to find an excuse. Ms. Pomona, the professor of herbology, gave Lucas a manual on herbal cultivation. But to say which was the most interesting gift, that must be Dumbledore. What the old man gave Lucas was a biographical novel called Son of Light. The novel tells the story of the son of a demon and a human, Merlin the Great Mage. Looking at the beautifully packaged book in his hands, Lucas chuckled, "Do you want to tell me that even if you are born in the dark, you can go to the light? If you had done the same with little Tom, maybe you wouldn't have these troubles now, Dumbledore." Since Halloween, Lucas and Dumbledore seemed to have formed some kind of tacit understanding, and neither of them saw each other again. He put the book aside. Thinking of the gift he gave the old man, Lucas laughed again. He gave away all kinds of wool socks won by the lottery. There's even a game console included. Wool socks is what Dumbledore told Harry when he asked what he saw in the mirror of Earist. I just don't know if Dumbledore will like it when he receives it. Lucas continued to look at the remaining presents. Hermione gave him a scarf. Judging from the crooked pattern on it, it should be woven by herself. Draco gave an out-of-print book on the habits and classification of dragons. Such a book may be a treasure for Draco, but Lucas really doesn't like those winged lizards. But he still put the book away. As for Harry, he sent a golden snitch toy. There are many more gifts and it took Lucas a long time just to unwrap all the presents. But the gifts he gave to everyone were not bad either. Especially for Draco's Compendium of Famous Wizards of Modern Times, which has the information on Nicholas Flamel recorded in detail on it. Let's hope Draco isn't always thinking about having fun this holiday season. As for Hermione, what she got was a handbook of spells compiled by Lucas himself. The technique of spell casting is recorded in detail above and he believed that Hermione would like it. Ding! Holiday special, the Platinum Prize pool is now open, and the duration will last until 12 midnight, please spend as much as you want to, host. Aunt Vinda, I have something to do, the rest of the gifts will be unwrapped later. After saying that, Lucas walked quickly to his room. System, draw immediately, Platinum Prize pool. It is detected that the host has a total of 7350 achievement points and 36 lottery draws can be carried out. Do you confirm the lottery draw? Confirm. The familiar prize pool reappears. Streams of various colors flew out of the prize pool. A few seconds later, the sound of the system came again. This lottery draw is over, and a total of 19 bronze rewards, 10 silver rewards, 5 gold rewards, and 2 platinum rewards have been obtained. Lucas was taken aback when he saw the reward. 36 lottery draws, and actually got 2 platinum rewards. The chances of winning in this festive special draw are really high. After multiple draws, Lucas has roughly figured out the range of rewards in each prize pool. At this moment, he is more curious about what he can get from the diamond reward above platinum. Are there any higher rewards on top of diamond rewards? Chapter 56, A New Innate Skill. Malfoy and his family are visiting. The bronze rewards for this lottery are as follows: Gold Galleons 13, total amount, 571, Nimbus 2000, modified, 1, Devil's Snare Seed 1, Belladonna 4. The silver rewards for this lucky draw are as follows: Shattering Curse, Level 5, Severing Curse, Level 5, Exploding Curse, Level 3, 4, A Brief History of the Magic World 1, Wind Charm, Level 3, Asterisk 3. The gold rewards for this lottery are as follows: Cruciatus Curse, Level 7, Sectum Sempra, Level 1, Legilimency, Level 4, Props Guardian Heart, Animagus, Black Panther. The platinum rewards for this lucky draw are as follows: Ancient Elven Magic, Looting, Level 1, Talent Combination Skill. After reading this time's rewards, Lucas gave an order to the system, let him learn what should be learned and synthesize what should be synthesized. Then he looked at the important rewards he got this time. Ancient Elven Magic, Looting, Level 1. You can absorb the magic power of the target for your own use. The amount absorbed depends on the level of magic. Each target can only be absorbed once. This magic is a bit interesting, but it is a pity that there are too many restrictions. System: what kind of talent is this combination skill? Combination skill allows the host to arbitrarily combine 2 or more spells, doubling the consumption of magic power. The advantage lies in the surprise factor. Lucas drew out his wand and said, Augmenti. Clear water sprayed out from the tip of the wand, instantly covering the chair. By the time the spell stopped, the chair had split in half. Augmenti and Sectum Sempra can indeed play a role in confusing my opponents, but the consumption of mana is also the sum of the 2 spells, so it cannot be used frequently, but it might be the key to victory in battle if used properly. Lucas quickly analyzed the pros and cons of combo talents. Overall, the pros far outweigh the cons. Lucas, in particular, is not short on magic himself. In this way, the disadvantages become dispensable. The platinum rewards this time complement each other, and they are all considered magical skills. System: open the character list. Name: Lucas Grindelwald. Age: 11 years old. Identity: leader of the Alliance, son of Gellert Grindelwald, freshman at Hogwarts. Bloodline: Void Elf, First Awakening. Talents: Void Fisher, Sight of Foresight, Combination Skill. Magic Power: 17, Common or level. Charms: 9, Full level. Transfiguration: 6. Dark Arts: 10, Awakened. Divination: 4. Potions: 4. Elven Magic, Soul Devouring, Level 1, Loot, Level 1. Animagus, Black Panther. Skills: Occlumency, Level 9, Fire Shield, Level 9, Imperious Curse, Level 9, Killing Curse, Level 9, Transfiguration Spell, Level 5, Cruciatus Curse, Level 8, Sectum Sempra, Level 1. Magic Items: Felix Felicis 2, Verita Serum 2, Mirror Crystal, Guardian Heart. Achievement Points: 150. Lucas took out the Guardian Heart from the inventory. This is a sapphire necklace with a protective alchemy array engraved in the gemstone, and it can withstand the full blow of the quasi-legendary level powerhouse. If the energy is exhausted, the Guardian Heart will automatically recharge for 1 day. As for the standard for quasi-legendary level powerhouses, see Dumbledore and Grindelwald today. Lucas probably had an idea of the strength of the two. Dumbledore and Grindelwald should have been legendary powerhouses in their heyday. But both of them are already 100 years old, and their magical powers are beginning to decline. It should be the pinnacle of the quasi-legendary level now. As for Voldemort, he should be at the legendary level during his all-time glory. Probably he won't be much different from Dumbledore after his resurrection. But as the Horcruxes were destroyed one by one, in the end, his strength should stay at the quasi-legend level, which is stronger than the elite Auror. Lucas shuts down the system. He stood in front of the mirror and closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, an elegant black panther appeared in the mirror. Panthers are slightly smaller than tigers, with a tail length of about 90 centimeters. The most amazing thing is that the eyes of the Black Panther are blue like stars. That's Lucas' animagus form. No matter how many books you read, it's better to draw a lottery. Looking at the beautiful figure in the mirror, Lucas smiled with satisfaction. System: can I have another form of animagus? Yes, due to your elven blood blessing, you can have 2 animagus forms, including magical creature forms. Lucas returned to human form, raising an eyebrow. One of animagus taboos is not being able to turn into magical creatures. But now he broke that taboo. It made Lucas wonder what his magical creature form would be. Lucas, Mr. Malfoy is visiting, they are going to spend Christmas with us. I see, Aunt Vinda. Lucas changed clothes and walked out of the room. Standing on the stairs on the 2nd floor, he saw the Malfoy family in the living room at a glance. Merry Christmas, Mr. Grindelwald. Merry Christmas, Mr. Malfoy, Mrs. Malfoy. Draco's eyes lit up when he saw his friend. He was just about to say hello to Lucas when his father gave him a cold glance. Ahem, Nice to see you, Mr. Grindelwald. Looking at Draco, who is acting all serious about noble etiquette, Lucas suppressed a smile and greeted him back. They all went to sit on the sofas. Lucius Malfoy said, "Please don't be offended that we took the liberty to visit without notice. As a neighbor and future partner, I think the two families should spend this beautiful Christmas together. Also, I think we should have a good discussion about going to the Ministry of Magic tomorrow, don't you think?" "Of course, I think so too." After dinner, Lucas took Vinda Rosier and Lucius Malfoy into the study and the three of them chatted until late at night. This made Draco very depressed, as he had planned to ask Lucas to open their presents together. Chapter 57, Heading to the British Ministry of Magic. As promised, 4 chapters today. December 26th. When other children are still immersed in the cheerful atmosphere of Christmas, Lucas had already put on his luxurious wizarding attire and was about to set off for the British Ministry of Magic. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Hestia flew out of the window with a pink envelope in her mouth. "Thank you, dear." Opening the envelope, Hermione Granger's neat cursive handwriting appeared on the parchment. "Dear Lucas, I am walking with Cho Chang on the streets of London. The holiday is finally coming to an end, and I look forward to meeting you at King's Cross Station. P.S. Cho asked me to convey her thanks on her behalf. She liked your gift very much. Hermione Granger." Obviously, Miss Granger's frequency of sending letters is almost the same as passing small notes in class. She even sends letters while walking on the streets, which shows that she always carries writing supplies with her. Lucas smiled and wrote a reply, then handed it over to Hestia, who was bouncing around. "Hey girl, give her the letter." Hestia seemed to enjoy sending messages between the two. She clutched the envelope, spread her wings and disappeared into the sky. "Lucas, we are leaving, are you ready?" Today Vinda Rosier dressed herself very beautifully and coldly. She's also using the magic perfume that Lucas gave her. "Ma'am, you look so beautiful today." "You're looking handsome too, sir." Vinda smiled and took Lucas's arm, and the two walked out of the villa gate together. A dozen members of the Alliance immediately followed behind them. When they reached outside the manor, Lucius Malfoy and his son were already waiting there. Beside them, there was a very beautiful and charming lady. "Mr. Grindelwald, let me introduce you. This is Mrs. Zabanai. She owns many shops in Diagon Alley." Lucas looked at Mrs. Zabanai in surprise. "Oh Merlin, if it wasn't for Mr. Malfoy's introduction, I would have thought it was a young lady from some noble family. How rude of me, Mrs. Zabanai." Mrs. Zabanai raised her hand to cover her lips and smiled softly. Hearing that alluring laugh, Lucas even doubted whether the other party would have Vila blood. No wonder 7 husbands died one after another even after knowing of the danger ahead. Who can resist such a woman? "Mr. Grindelwald is really good at talking. Based on your few words, I will give you a fair price whether it is renting or buying a shop." After getting acquainted with each other, Lucas and Malfoy were walking in front while the others followed and walked towards the Ministry of Magic together. The British Ministry of Magic is also located in central London. It's just different from the high profile of Germany. The Wizards of England built it underground. The entrance is a dilapidated red phone booth. Obviously, Lucas wasn't going to squeeze into a phone booth. They operate directly into the main hall of the Ministry of Magic. This is the real gate of the Ministry of Magic. "Lucas, we need to go to the first basement, which is Minister Fudge's office." Lucas didn't say anything in answer, he just nodded. His attention was drawn to the dazed Draco beside him. "Draco, you don't want to throw up in the Ministry of Magic's atrium, do you?" "How is it possible? I just haven't adapted yet." Lucas turned to look at Lucius, who explained, "Draco is too young, he has travelled through apparition just a couple times." After that, Lucius gave his son a cold look, probably thinking how he was being an embarrassment to the Malfoy family. "Come on, Lucas, the main hall is on the 8th basement floor, we need to register our wands, and then take the elevator to the 2nd floor." Everyone registered their wands at the security check counter, then went to the inner elevator. It was Lucas' first visit to the British Ministry of Magic. The Fountain of Magical Brethren depicted a pair of wizard and witch surrounded by different magical races looking at them in awe, showing how much wizards think themselves superior to others. Leaving the atrium, everyone took the elevator to the 2nd basement floor. Visitors in the Ministry of Magic cannot take the elevator directly to the minister's office and the courtroom on the 10th basement floor. So Lucas and others need to walk to the 1st floor. The 2nd floor underground, it is the largest department of the Ministry of Magic, the seat of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Unfortunately, Lucas didn't have a great relationship with their deputy director or the head Auror. What's more unfortunate is that at this moment, these two people were walking from a distance, accompanied by people from the German Ministry of Magic. It's like fate. The so-called road to meeting enemies is narrow, is this what it means? Lucas regretted not looking through the almanac before going out today, although it is not popular in England. Oh, I didn't expect to see you here, Minister Orwell. Lucas decided to strike first. Orwell, who was originally in a good mood, immediately turned gloomy. Mr. Grindelwald? Didn't expect someone like you to come to the Ministry of Magic. Me? Maybe Minister Orwell doesn't know that I have decided to settle in England, so is there anything wrong with me coming to the Ministry of Magic? Lucas looked at him suspiciously. Before the other party could answer, he showed an expression of sudden realization. By the way, why did I forget? Minister Orwell's Ministry of Magic seems to be still rebuilding. I'm sorry, I just remembered. Vinda, remember to donate some galleons to the German Ministry of Magic later. Germany is an indispensable part of the magic world, and we are all responsible for rebuilding the Ministry of Magic. Orwell gritted his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. He suppressed his anger and reminded himself that this was the British Ministry of Magic and there was no room for loss of courtesy. Thanks for your kindness, Mr. Grindelwald, but the funds for rebuilding the Ministry of Magic are already sufficient, but we appreciate the kind offer. Really, what a pity. Lucas said with regret. I still have something to do, so I won't bother Minister Orwell and everyone. I forgot to say it just now. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Minister Orwell is really working hard. On such an important day as Christmas, he actually leads a team to visit other countries. It is really an example for us to learn from. After Lucas finished speaking, he turned and prepared to leave. At this time a Ministry of Magic employee ran to Pius Thickness's side. The two whispered and Pius said immediately, Mr. Grindelwald, please wait a moment, we have something to ask you. Chapter 58, Conflict broke out in the Ministry of Magic. Lucas turned to look at Pius Thickness, the famous Imperiused Death Eater in the future, Minister for Magic appointed by Voldemort. He didn't understand what the other party meant by this. Deputy Director Pius, what can I do for you? Mr. Grindelwald, the staff of the Prohibition of Misuse of Magic office discovered that you used magic in your own home yesterday, Christmas Day, did you? Lucas looked at him in surprise. The magic world's monitoring methods for underage wizards are very poor. It was said in the original book that for young wizards from wizarding families, the Ministry of Magic handed over the supervision responsibility to wizard parents. Ron Weasley also said that as long as there are adult wizards around, little wizards will not receive warnings from the Ministry of Magic even if they use magic. That's odd, then, he's using magic at home, so why is Pius so sure that he violated the rules? Deputy Director Pius, maybe you made a mistake. Although I was at home yesterday, I never used magic. Maybe there is something wrong with your testing equipment. Pius sported a goatee and looked sullen. Hearing Lucas answer, he showed a cold smile, Mr. Grindelwald, please trust our staff. In fact, when you registered your wand, we have done a test and proved that the spell of Augmenti was casted from your wand. Lucas narrowed his eyes, the smile fading from his mouth. To see him like this, Pius seemed very pleased. Rufus, take Mr. Grindelwald to the Misuse of Magic office. The head Auror, Rufus Scrimgeour, stepped out of the group. This stern fellow always follows orders. He led his Aurors towards Lucas, but before approaching, he was stopped by the acolytes who were guarding Lucas. Draco stood in the crowd, seeing that the two sides were at war with each other and their magic wands were out and prepared to start casting. He got scared. After all, this proud boy is just an 11-year-old. Lucius Malfoy wasn't involved. He believed that Lucas' ability was enough to handle such a small scene. Seeing his son's worthless appearance, he came behind him and lifted his head with his hands forcefully. Look carefully, you may encounter such a situation in the future, and see how your friend handles it, Draco. Draco followed his father's voice to Lucas and saw that the other party showed no fear, and even faced the eerie deputy director. See, Draco? This is what a leader should have, and you, as the future head of the Malfoy family, must become like him. Draco stared at the back of his friend. Ever since he got acquainted with Lucas, he knew that he was excellent. But he never imagined that his best friend would be so brilliant one day, which made him look at Lucas with a look of admiration. Pius walked up to the acolytes who were getting in the way of his objective. Looking at the young man surrounded by them, he said, "Mr. Grindelwald, this is the Ministry of Magic. Are you sure you want this?" After finishing speaking, he looked at the surrounding acolytes, and gestured to the wands in their hands. "Vinda, put away your wand." Vinda Rosier slowly lowered her wand. The other members followed suit and put away their wands, but their eyes were fixed on the aurors present. Lucas took a deep breath and smiled at everyone. "As a member of the British magical community, it is my duty to cooperate with the Ministry of Magic." After he finished speaking, he turned his head to look at Lucius Malfoy and Mrs. Zabinai, and after expressing apologies to the two, he left with Rufus. Seeing his friend being taken away, Draco was extremely anxious. "Dad, you have to figure out a way to prevent Lucas from being taken away." "Draco, watch carefully, sometimes, being taken away does not mean that something will happen." Lucius looked around after speaking. When the conflict happened just now, the wizards around all touched their wands. Lucas must have noticed, so he chose to follow the other party away. This is the Ministry of Magic, he can't just do whatever he wants. While everyone was waiting, Lucius Malfoy told his son some truths by precept and example while the others were looking for places to sit and rest. It has to be said that the happiest person at this moment is none other than Orwell, Minister of the German Ministry of Magic. Seeing Lucas deflated, his bald head was much brighter than before. "Have you all seen it? Deputy Director Thickness and Head Aura Rufus are the role models we should learn from, and we should be tough when dealing with dark wizards." Orwell appears to be lecturing the aurors from his ministry, but his voice was so loud that everyone on the second basement floor could hear it. He seemed afraid that people would not know that Lucas was a dark wizard. Vinda Rosier's face gradually became gloomy, and her gaze at Orwell became very dangerous. And Orwell seemed to have just noticed her and said in surprise, "Oh, isn't this the charming Rose of France, Ms. Vinda Rosier? I didn't expect to see you here, but your complexion looks very bad. Is it because you are worried about your little master? Let me guess, if a minor abuses magic, will his wand be broken? It's really exciting." Orwell's obnoxious voice echoed in the second basement. He had planned to leave, but now he wanted to see how Lucas will be punished in the end. Orwell knew very well that both Pius and Rufus hated dark wizards very much. At the same time, Lucas, who was brought into the office, heard the loud sound of the door closing behind him and his body immediately tensed up. "Grindelwald, what a disgusting surname." The voice behind him just fell and Lucas was pulled and turned 180 degrees. Immediately afterwards a wand was placed on his temple. Chapter 59, Rescuers Appear. There was an icy cold feeling in the temple which made Lucas' brain calm down quickly. He looked at Pius blankly and said, "Aren't you afraid that Director Amelia and Minister Fudge will blame you for treating an underage wizard like this?" Lucas' words sounded like a joke to Pius. "Mr. Grindelwald, do you think Minister Fudge will stand up for a dark wizard?" "Deputy Director Thickness, if you call me a dark wizard again, I will complain to your superiors." "Complain?" Pierce's eyes widened. The wand in his hand pointed even harder at Lucas' temple. "Do you need me to take your memory out and put it in a pensieve? Maybe then everyone will know about your group's conspiracy." He seems to think this is a very good idea, so he actually raised his wand, intending to extract his memories. "Dude, calm down." Rufus stepped forward and pulled him away. "You can't do that to an underage wizard, it's against the law." He pushed Pius towards the corner of the office. Rufus took over the other's job, seeing that Pius was being too emotional. "Mr. Grindelwald, we need to inspect your wand, please cooperate with us." Although Rufus spared no effort in fighting dark wizards, but he is very rigid. No matter what he does, he will strictly abide by the rules and regulations. This also makes Rufus' reputation with the Ministry of Magic mixed, some people respect him while some others hate him. Lucas looked at the serious-faced middle-aged man in front of him and the other party's information was recalled in his mind. "Sorry Director Rufus, what if I don't want to cooperate?" Without waiting for Rufus to speak, Pius came to Lucas again. "Do you think we are negotiating with you? Even if you don't cooperate with us now, it doesn't matter. We will punish you with the Reasonable Restraint of Underage Wizards Act prohibiting minors from abusing magic outside of school. Need me to tell you the consequences?" Seeing that Lucas didn't speak, he whispered in his ear, "Usually, minors convicted of crimes will have their wands broken off and be expelled from Hogwarts. Mr. Grindelwald, I think some friends would be very happy to see you without the shelter of Hogwarts." For example, outside this door and also those people staring at you from the shadowy corners. Oh Merlin, think about your fate. Facing the intimidation of Pius, Lucas just closed his eyes. Seeing his appearance, Pius immediately yelled out the door. Charlie, immediately inform the Wiesengamot and the courtroom that there is a gentleman here who needs to explain his problem properly. Outside the office, hearing Pius's voice, members of the Alliance immediately got up and walked towards the office. Everyone stop. Vinda sternly stopped everyone. She looked at the wooden door of the office and chose to trust Lucas. Orwell laughed heartily and told his Aurors to get ready. Once Lucas was expelled from Hogwarts, he would immediately bring him back to Germany. In the office, Lucas' laughter suddenly came out of the silent environment. He opened his eyes, and his eyes were full of mockery towards Pius and his companion. Deputy Director Thickness, why do you think the Wiesengamot will put me on trial? Hey! Pius looked at the boy in front of him suspiciously. Before he could ask what the other party meant, the wooden door of the office was pushed open. Deputy Director Pius, Head Aura Rufus, Mr. Grindelwald is the minister's guest. The minister has been informed of what's going on here and he thinks it's all a misunderstanding. It was a young man in his 20s who broke into the office. Entering behind him was Director Amelia Bones of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Pius, Rufus, I already know what happened, please show evidence to prove that Mr. Grindelwald abused magic outside the school. Director, as long as you get his wand and check it, everything will be clear. Need I remind you, Pius? We can't force someone to surrender their wand without proof. Facing Amelia's tough attitude, they decided to reluctantly give in. Lucas smiled and held out his palm. Thank you, Director Amelia, sorry to make you come here for such a small matter. It's nothing, Mr. Grindelwald. My little niece, Susan Bones, has always mentioned you these days. I heard that you even gave her homework advice. I am very grateful. Lucas smiled and said it was nothing. Susan Bones, a student of Hufflepuff, was in the same class as Lucas. Her aunt is Amelia Bones, head of the Ministry of Magic's Law Enforcement Department. Lucas sent someone to investigate these materials after he came to England and met Amelia for the first time. After thanking her, Lucas looked at the young man beside him again. Nice to meet you, sir, my name is Lucas Grindelwald. Good morning, sir, my name is Pine Caro, assistant to Minister Fudge. Oh, the Caro family, one of the sacred 28 families, it's an honor to meet you. Hearing Lucas mention his family, Pine's eyes were full of pride. Mr. Grindelwald, the minister has been waiting for a long time, please follow me. Wait a minute. Lucas turned back and walked in front of Pius. He signaled the other person to bend down a bit. Once he was close to his ear, he whispered, I don't know if those people outside the door and in the dark are happy now. But I can assure you, Deputy Director Pius, you will not be happy in the future, so better be careful. Once he was out of the misuse of magic office, everyone outside the door breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing Orwell's astonished expression, Lucas smiled at him. He waited until everyone arrived at the corridor leading to the first basement floor. Lucas' expression immediately became cold and gloomy. Vinda, you know what to do next. Don't worry, I will arrange the most suitable person to do it. Her expression at the moment was no different from Lucas. It seems that this trip to the Ministry of Magic completely angered this proud lady. Sorry, boss, I was late. No, Pine, you came just in time. The voices of several people were very low. Mrs. Zabanai, who was walking behind, could not hear what they were saying. Just thought Fudge's assistant was introducing Lucas to the Ministry of Magic. Soon, everyone arrived at the first basement floor, in front of Fudge's office. Chapter 60, the Ministry of Magic gave the green light. Cornelius Fudge, the current Minister of Magic. In fact, the stocky little man only took over as minister in 1990. That's right, this year is only Fudge's second year as minister. But that didn't stop Fudge from being obsessed with power and status. But it's a pity, on top of him is the greatest wizard of the century, Albus Dumbledore. Most of the time, Fudge and Dumbledore disagreed because the wizards at the Ministry of Magic preferred Dumbledore. Oh, Mr. Malfoy, long time no see. Fudge stepped out from behind his desk laughing. And when he saw the blonde boy standing next to Malfoy, he asked in surprise, this is Mr. Grindelwald, right? Nice to meet you, Minister Fudge. Lucas stepped forward to greet him. Fudge has a great obsession with power, which made him have a great affection for people from pure-blood families. He shook hands with Lucas cordially and invited everyone to his meeting room. "Oh, I've heard what happened just now, and I feel really sorry for causing you all such trouble," Fudge said to Lucas apologetically. "You don't need to blame yourself. On the contrary, for me who just entered the British magic world, such an impartial and law enforcement attitude made me feel more at ease." Upon hearing the reassuring words spoken in an elegant tone, Fudge looked at the blonde boy in front of him with a trace of gratitude in his eyes. Lucas continued, "Actually, my family and I had certain concerns before coming to England. Sorry, maybe you won't like what I say next, but I still need to say it." Fudge nodded understandingly, and held out his hand for Lucas to continue. "We came here this time, in addition to planning to settle in England, we also planned to settle down the property, but before we came, we were still very worried about you-know-who." Hearing Lucas mention that man, the office suddenly became silent. Especially Fudge, he even trembled a little when he heard the words you-know-who. Sure enough, just as the collected information said, the Minister of the British Ministry of Magic is greedy for power and also a weak coward at the same time. Otherwise he wouldn't always be compromising with Dumbledore. "Mr. Grindelwald, that man was wiped out more than 10 years ago. You and your family can rest assured. Of course, I believe your words very much, especially when I came to the Ministry of Magic this time and saw your subordinates enforce the law impartially, which made me more confident about settling here." After Lucas finished speaking, he looked at Fudge, with a trace of admiration in his eyes. "Speaking of which, Minister Fudge is responsible for all of this. It's great that you were elected Minister of Magic." Hearing these words, Fudge's smile almost reached his ears and he looked at Lucas with growing satisfaction. But Lucas didn't intend to end it like this. He looked at Vinda behind him and said, "Vinda, I remember your family is Rosier, right?" Fudge looked at the beautiful woman standing aside in surprise. "I didn't expect you to be from the Rosier family. It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am." Vinda smiled charmingly and nodded to Fudge. That's not all. Lucas also mentioned several members of the Sacred 28 family working under him. So that Fudge knew that he could fully support his re-election as Minister of Magic. Lucius Malfoy also said at this time, "Minister Fudge, Mr. Grindelwald and I are planning to fully cooperate, and I will trouble you more in the future." Fudge looked even happier. The Malfoy family, the top family in the British wizarding world. With their support, Fudge's voice in the Ministry of Magic will be further enhanced. "Oh, what a wonderful fate, then I wish the two of you a happy cooperation. Of course, if there is any trouble, within the scope of my duties, I am willing to help you both." Lucas smiled at Malfoy. Then he took out a piece of parchment and said, "Minister Fudge, in fact, we are here today because we need your help. We have plans to buy 15 shops in Diagon Alley, 6 of which are owned by the Ministry of Magic, so..." "6 shops? This..." Fudge gave Lucas a puzzled look. "This matter is very big, and he cannot solve it alone." Lucas turned and shot a glance behind him at his subordinates who tactfully exited the office. Then, a new magical document appeared in front of Fudge. Madame Zabanai also had a share in front of her. "This is..." the two asked suspiciously. Lucas explained with a smile, "Minister Fudge's agreement is a dividend agreement. As long as you sign it, you will get 1% of the benefits created by these 15 stores in the future." "That's not good, I shouldn't." "Minister Fudge, don't worry, there are no strings attached to this agreement. If you are not at ease, we can still make an unbreakable vow." For a moment Fudge couldn't make up his mind. Seeing the other party lost in thought, Lucas looked at Mrs. Zabanai again. "Beautiful lady, your agreement is for us to buy 9 of your stores with shares, and you can also get a lot of dividends every year. I can assure you that the annual dividends must be more than the rent you charge, how about it?" Mrs. Zabanai signed the agreement without any hesitation, which greatly surprised Lucas. "What? Surprised?" Seeing Lucas nod, Mrs. Zabanai smiled coquettishly, "It's just 9 shops, even if they are empty, it won't affect me, but I believe in you and I'm willing to take a gamble." "Thank you very much for your trust, ma'am." At this time, Fudge finished considering his decision and his greed won after all. Watching the other party sign his name on the agreement, Lucas held out his hand and said, "Let's have a good cooperation, Minister Fudge." Congratulations to the host for completing a new achievement, Fudge's Appreciation, Rewards, 100 Achievement Points, a map of the Ministry of Magic. With the help of Minister Fudge, the store procedures of Lucas and others went smoothly. Taking advantage of the gap in the formalities, Fudge also took Lucas on a tour of the Ministry of Magic. Chapter 61, Layout of Nocturne Alley, Pious Thickness was attacked. Congratulations to the host for completing a new achievement, Exploring the Ministry of Magic, Rewards, 200 Achievement Points Prophecy Ball, 1. Under Fudge's leadership, Lucas took a tour of the Ministry of Magic. Although the all-important Department of Mysteries in the underground courtroom is only a cursory glance. But this does not prevent Lucas from getting the achievement. Speaking of the Department of Mysteries, Lucas was very interested. Except for the Prophecy Hall, which stores countless prophecy balls. Lucas is also full of curiosity about the Time Chamber and the mysterious stone door. Such a pity that these places are highly classified so he can only visit them at another time. Soon, the 6 shops belonging to the Ministry of Magic were passed to Lucas. After getting the business permits for 15 stores, he led the crowd out of the Ministry of Magic. Mr. Grindelwald, Mr. Malfoy, I'll go back and have the 9 shops sorted out. Madame Zabanai, thank you. Mrs. Zabanai nodded, and then operated away with a crack sound. At this moment, Lucas looked at Patriarch Malfoy beside him. How is it? Am I qualified to work with the Malfoy family now? Lucius Malfoy raised his eyebrows, and stretched out his right hand gracefully. It is an honor for the Malfoy family to be friends with you. The 2 hands are tightly held together and smiled tacitly at the same time. Before parting, Lucas handed over the layout of Nocturne Alley to the Malfoys. After all, the other party is the local snake rooted in the British magic world. Then the black market, the underground auction and the casino will be handed over to you, Mr. Malfoy. Don't worry, I just know that there are a few pieces of land in Nocturne Alley that are vacant, and I should be able to finish it before the next holiday. Lucius Malfoy left his son behind and went back to Malfoy Manor first. Seeing his friend with a frown on his face, Lucas joked, "What's wrong with our young Master Malfoy? Are you worried about something?" Alas! Draco sighed. I just found that I was very naive before, I had never thought about these things. I thought that as long as my father was at home, I would not be afraid of any problem coming my way. Lucas restrained his smile, looked at the people coming and going on the street and said, Draco, if possible, I also hope that someone will stand in front of me and protect me from the wind and rain. Cherish your beautiful childhood, I'm afraid your life won't be so carefree in a few years. Lucas patted him on the shoulder and walked away. Back at Grindelwald estate, Lucas sipped his freshly brewed black tea. In his hand, he was flipping through an encyclopedia of magical creatures. Reading the introduction to the basilisk above, he pondered the way to deal with the basilisk at Hogwarts in his mind. Lucas, are you really going to hand over the Nocturne Alley business to the Malfoys? Know that the underground business will always make more money than the surface business. Of course I know, Aunt Vinda, when the time comes, you arrange some trustworthy people to help. I run underground auctions and trading venues just to collect some rare things. As for the casino. Lucas stopped there, closed the book, went to the window and looked out at the dark night sky. Aunt Vinda, have you seen the real face of a gambler? Gambler. Lucas nodded. Gambling is addictive, and sometimes a little bit of greed can make people fall into a situation beyond redemption. Arrange some people to enter the casino. If those gamblers are short of money, lend them. If you encounter something that needs people to do some dirty work in the future, leave it to those gamblers. The light in Vinda's eyes flickered. I understand. Also, what you asked before has been done. After saying that, she took out a wooden box. Inside there was a wand broken into 3 pieces. Lucas just glanced at it, then asked, where's the man? Broken limbs, broken spine, even at St. Mungo's he will take months to recover. Oh. Poor Pius. I had someone pretend to be an alcoholic then get into a conflict with Pius on the way home. Then he pretended to have injured him by mistake. No one should suspect it. Hearing Vinda's words, Lucas laughed and said, he just got into trouble with me during the day, and met a drunkard at night? This is too coincidental. Well, it's okay, even if they suspect foul play, there is no evidence, let those who did the work go back to Nurmengard to take care of father. Vinda nodded, turned, and walked out of the room to make arrangements. Lucas took a deep breath and looked out the window at the night sky again. Pious Thickness, you are really troublesome. If I wasn't worried about Fudge's backing out of the deal because of fear, you would not have such a good life today. The next day, King's Cross Station. Lucas is still traveling light. Watching Hermione rushing up, Lucas greeted her immediately. Miss Cho Chang, long time no see. After accepting Hermione's greetings, Lucas greeted Cho Chang, who came next to him. "Long time no see? It's only been 3 days." After she finished speaking, she handed her school trunk to Lucas and followed Hermione into the train. Lucas shrugged, and followed the two onto the Hogwarts Express. After hours of traveling, the students who returned home for vacation finally returned to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. After sending the two girls back to the Ravenclaw Tower, Lucas also returned to the Slytherin common room in the dungeons. Just when he was about to continue looking through the Encyclopedia of Magical Creatures, the door of the common room suddenly opened and Draco ran in anxiously, pulled Lucas up and walked out without saying anything. Judging from his appearance, it seemed that something serious had happened. Chapter 62, Snape is the bad guy? And Draco actually believed it. T/N, from here on chapters become longer, this one is double the usual length, enjoy. Even if the matter is urgent, you still need to tell me what happened first. Outside the Slytherin break room, Lucas followed Draco suspiciously. "Hurry up, you will miss it if you are late." "What's the hurry?" "Dragon, the Norwegian Ridgeback is about to break its shell." Lucas shook off Draco's hand and stopped his steps. "If it's watching a big lizard break its shell, then I'm not interested." "Hey, that's rude of you, that's a dragon, not a lizard." Hearing Lucas describing the dragon as a lizard, Draco expressed great dissatisfaction. Just when he was planning to correct the other party's wrong thinking. Finding that Lucas, who was about to go back, stopped. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, I just thought you'd cause trouble if you went alone, and that dragon is too dangerous at school." "Then what do you mean?" Lucas didn't continue to answer, but turned around and walked towards the exit of the dungeons. Seeing him like this, Draco couldn't understand. "Wait for me, I'll show you the way." Lucas wasn't that kind. He just thought that Harry and the others would be punished and need to patrol the Forbidden Forest because of this incident. Such a great opportunity, of course Lucas didn't want to miss it. The Forbidden Forest is a great place, inside of it there are countless herbs and hundreds of magical creatures. It is simply a super big treasure chest containing countless treasures. Besides, he still has the achievement of exploring the Forbidden Forest to complete. To this end, Lucas also specifically called Hermione out. In the original, several people found Draco peeking from outside the window. Worried that Hagrid's secret of raising the dragon would be exposed, they had no choice but to send it away. But now Draco obviously won't do that. Then it's up to Lucas and Hermione to do the persuasion. The three came outside the castle and successfully joined Harry and Weasley. When he saw Lucas coming towards them, Ron subconsciously backed a bit. Although there was no evidence, Ron's intuition told him that last flying lesson, it was Lucas who put a spell on his broom. As a result, he lay in the infirmary for a day, and had to endure the pain of bone healing. "Harry, what are they doing here?" Looking at the unhappy expression of his friend, Harry smiled and comforted, "Come on, Lucas is Draco's and my friend." While speaking, Lucas' group had already walked in front of Harry and saw Ron Weasley's disgusted expression. Lucas frowned. "Mr. Ron Weasley, is your injury healed? Be careful in the future, broomsticks are also very dangerous." "You." Seeing Ron's flushed face, Draco covered his mouth and snickered, while Harry kept smoothing things over and trying to make jokes. The atmosphere on both sides became much more relaxed, so they walked towards the edge of the Forbidden Forest together. On the way, Harry mentioned the special gift he received during the Christmas holiday, the invisibility cloak, and about his suspicions about Snape. "I was standing next to Snape that day, he couldn't see me because of the invisibility cloak, but I could hear him clearly, he was threatening Professor Quirrell." "Harry, Snape is a professor of the school, he will not do anything that harms the interests of the school." Lucas couldn't help reminding him, but the stubborn Harry decided that Snape was the villain. "No, Snape was too suspicious, and then I went out again at night, at the door of an empty classroom, and heard Professor Quirrell's cry from inside. He must have been unable to withstand Snape's torture, so he surrendered." Harry had just finished speaking when Ron went on to say, "The last Quidditch match, it was Snape who cursed Harry's broom." He looked specifically at Lucas and Draco as he said this, there is also a hint of gloating on his face. Reminded by Ron, Hermione and the others also remembered what had happened on the Quidditch pitch. So, Professor Snape was indeed suspicious, and it couldn't be a coincidence that Harry's broom immediately stabilized when we ignited his robes. Hermione looked at Lucas beside her after speaking, wanting to hear his opinion. Lucas, on the other hand, looked at Draco. He'd heard that he was also responsible for burning Professor Snape's robes that day. I don't really dare to believe it, but it is indeed a bit suspicious. When he said this sentence, his expression was very tangled. Merlin, Draco Malfoy, Snape, and your father are good friends and he's even your godfather, is it really okay for you to doubt him so much? He complained silently in his heart. Lucas gave ambiguous answers. I reserve my opinion, sometimes those who look bad, actually have a good heart. And those guys who seem harmless to humans and animals, maybe they are murderous demons behind their backs. As soon as he finished speaking, Ron Weasley made fun of him. Oh, Lucas, you're very kind, and you look quite harmless. Fortunately, at this time, everyone had already arrived outside Hagrid's hut. Upon seeing Hagrid open the door, everyone tacitly stopped talking about Snape. Oh, you are here, come quickly, the little dragon is about to break its shell. For the arrival of everyone, Hagrid was very happy. This big man with a height of more than 3 meters likes dangerous creatures very much. He also called those dangerous creatures cuties, but if you think about it carefully, for his size, most dangerous creatures are cuties. Inviting them to take seats, Hagrid looked at Lucas and Hermione and asked, "Are you new friends?" "Hagrid, this is Lucas, and beside him is Hermione Granger." "Oh." Hagrid's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you Lucas Grindelwald?" Seeing Lucas nod, Hagrid smiled and said, "I've heard of you, or everyone at school has heard of you. Dumbledore also said that you are a very interesting little guy, nice to meet you, my name is Rubeus Hagrid, gamekeeper." After introducing each other, Hagrid couldn't wait to walk to the fireplace. A dragon egg the size of a football is stored there. He pulled it out of the fire when he heard a crack and put it on the table. "Look, the little guy is about to break his shell." Everyone immediately stepped forward to stare at the dragon egg that kept moving on the table. Accompanied by a crisp sound, a crack appeared at the top of the dragon egg. Just when everyone was about to exclaim, a small dragon head broke out of the shell. "Oh, the little guy is out, Mommy is so happy, come on, crawl out of this eggshell hard." Lucas frowned, looking at Hagrid with distaste. He really couldn't stand a strong man 3 meters tall exuding maternal love for a palm-sized baby dragon. He even started crying with joy when he saw the baby dragon fully emerging from the egg. "Merlin! Come and take this monster away." Thankfully Hagrid's tears only lasted a short time. Soon he turned back to the old rough-looking guy. Looking at the Norwegian ridgeback in the palm of his hand, it was as if Hagrid saw a rare treasure. "Hagrid, let us see it too." Draco stood on tiptoe and looked up at the half-giant's palm. Hagrid smiled shyly, and put the baby dragon on the round table. "Merlin, it's so beautiful. How big do you think it can grow? What a beautiful cutie." The reactions of the three of them made Hagrid very happy. This strong man with giant blood is really innocent sometimes, stupid. Lucas and Hermione looked helplessly at the few people who had fallen into obsession. Listen to what they said? Cutie? This little cutie will be able to swallow their heads in one gulp after a month. This little cutie can start a monstrous fire with just a breath. When he saw the idiot group still commenting on the young dragon, Lucas coughed deliberately. Should we give this young dragon a name? Several people suddenly realized. Draco looked at the baby dragon and said, "How about calling it Duke? I've been thinking about that name for a long time." "No." Harry shook his head, "I think Locke is fine. Obviously, this name is not recognized by everyone." Then Ron and Hermione had a few more suggestions, but they are all popular names. It is worth mentioning that Hermione named several of them and also included Crookshanks. It seems she has wanted a pet for a long time. As the master of the young dragon, Hagrid vetoed everyone's name. He thought hard for a long time, and finally said the representative name Norbert. Lucas saw several people around the young dragon yelling Norbert and cooing at it. He patted his forehead helplessly. "Draco, are you reading all those books for nothing? This Norwegian ridgeback is obviously a female dragon, and the name Norbert is not suitable for her." Hearing what Lucas said, Hagrid immediately held the baby dragon in his hand to observe. Finally, he had to admit that Lucas was right. Seeing them falling into the trouble of naming again, Lucas sighed, "How about just calling her Noberta?" Congratulations to the host for completing the new achievement, Dragon and Elf, reward, 20 achievement points. The baby dragon seems to like the name Lucas told. She let out a cry, and crawled along the table to sniff Lucas' elf scent. With the issue of naming resolved, now they need to discuss the fate of the young dragon. Hearing Lucas say to send Norberta away, Hagrid hastily shook his head and refused to agree. Even though Norberta burned his beard with a dragon breath, Hagrid did not put the dragon down. The same goes for Harry and others, who felt that it was too cruel to send the newborn Norberta into the wild. Hey, you have to understand that the Ministry of Magic has a clear regulation that no person is allowed to raise a dragon without permission. If found out, Hagrid may have to leave Hogwarts forever and could even be sent to Azkaban. Lucas' words made them all frown. Hearing them talking, Hermione immediately understood what they were thinking. Don't take chances. It only takes 1 month for Norberta to grow bigger than this house. At that time, what are you going to do with her? Oh no, Norberta, Mommy can't bear leaving you. Hagrid cried bitterly while hugging the baby dragon. Lucas' eardrums hurt from his crying, so he turned his head to the window, trying to distract himself. Coincidentally, there was a human face looking at them by the window. Who's there? Hearing Lucas yelling, the people outside the house immediately fled to the distance. Looking at that figure running away, Draco frowned. Oops, it's Angus Selwyn, my sworn enemy. He will definitely tell the professors about Norberta. Lucas stood up from his seat and said in a resolute tone, Hagrid, Norberta must be sent away, otherwise you both will be in danger. Lucas applauded the Selwyn boy in his heart. He appeared just in time. For fear of Selwyn's reporting what he saw, Hagrid was forced to agree to send Norberta away. But where to send her became the problem. They can't just find a place to throw her in the wild. Lucas actually knew the solution, but with the relationship between him and Ron, it is really impossible to say it. So he reminded him on the sidelines, it would be great if someone had the permission to raise dragons. Charlie. Ron's big brother Charlie Weasley raises dragons in Romania. Harry was quick to respond. When everyone heard his words, they looked at Ron. Ron, who was in the spotlight for the first time, immediately patted his chest and made a promise to Hagrid. On the way back to the dormitory, the trio of Harry and the two loudmouths were still chatting about dragons. Lucas noticed that the eyes of the people in the portraits were looking at them vaguely, trying to appear subtle but clearly paying attention to their conversation. Dumbledore should have known by now that his savior boy was in danger. So, is Dumbledore also involved in this matter? Lucas put the question to the back of his mind for a moment. All he needs to do is follow Harry and the others, and then they will be punished by being sent to the Forbidden Forest. Quirrellmurt, we will meet again soon. Chapter 63, Lavatory and Myrtle, Angry Professor McGonagall. I'm still a bit drunk from New Year's celebration, so I'll give you more chapters later once I truly wake up. The reply from Charlie Weasley came sooner than expected. In the letter, he praised his younger brother Ron for his correct decision. Then he told them that a week later, on Saturday night, his friends would be waiting on the astronomy tower at Hogwarts. The next week, the idiot trio were happy because they could go to Hagrid's hut to play with the baby dragon Norberta every day. They can't be called the Golden Trio anymore because they lack the brain of the group, which leaves them as just 3 particularly stupid kids. Lucas is still the same, working hard at accumulating points. The emeralds in the Slytherin hourglass have increased a lot, and the students from other houses, every time they pass by the hourglass, will show a frustrated expression. Everyone seems to have decided that this year's House Cup will continue to be won by Slytherin. The only one who might feel pain is Miss Hermione, because she keeps working hard trying to catch up. Oh Merlin, why does a week last so long? You don't know how painful it is to keep secrets in fear every day. Hermione frowned and complained to Lucas beside her. These days she was always worried that Hagrid's dragon would cause trouble. Fortunately, the day finally came to send the dragon away. Lucas took the little witch's hand and motioned for her to sit beside him. Relax, nothing happened this week. It should be said that you haven't seen anything happen. Have you even visited the dragon this week? Seeing Lucas shake his head, Hermione said angrily, she's grown to the size of a big dog, and it's only been a week, Merlin. Poor Fang is doing everything he can to stay far away from Norberta. Lucas, who has never been interested in dragons, was taken aback after hearing Hermione's description. It grows so fast. The second reaction is to think of the phrase every dragon is full of treasures. If Professor Snape knew about this, the poor baby dragon would probably be dismembered. What? What does it have to do with Professor Snape? Nothing. Night fell imperceptibly. When the appointed time came, Lucas and Draco left their common room together, and not long after the two left, another thin figure left as well. Lucas didn't stop the little mouse behind them. On the contrary, he let him go so everyone will be caught tonight. Otherwise, how can they go to the Forbidden Forest as he wishes? They need the help of this little mouse. Lucas looked beside him and shook his head helplessly. Since dinner, Draco has been absent-minded. When he first came to school, Draco was not this reluctant to leave his parents, but now he's like this for a simple dragon. The two first came to the Ravenclaw Tower where Hermione has been waiting for a long time. You guys are so late, where are Harry and Ron? The two of them are responsible for bringing Norberta to the top of the tower, let's go first. Because Hagrid's size is too conspicuous, he is not suitable for such a covert operation, so he could only stay in his hut and grieve alone. The scenery tonight is very beautiful, with a bright moon in the sky and stars surrounding it. Lucas stood shoulder to shoulder with Hermione, looking up at the stars. It's so beautiful. If I draw this astronomical picture, Professor Sinister will be willing to give me an O. My lady, please don't talk about school work, you are spoiling the fun under such beautiful scenery. Lucas looked helplessly at Miss Know-It-all beside him. Is she allergic to romance? Hermione smiled mischievously, she herself felt incredible. With such a beautiful scenery, the first thing she thought of was astronomy homework. Hermione took the blonde boy's hand and said, "Sorry sir, I won't do it next time." Draco was left feeling like a third wheel, completely forgotten by those two, who were too busy role-playing to pay attention to him. He looked towards the entrance to the top of the tower several times, complaining why Harry was taking so long to arrive. This box is really heavy. Ron complained from the entrance. Immediately afterwards, the figures of Harry and Ron suddenly appeared on the top of the tower after taking off Harry's cloak. Compared to Draco, who rushed directly to the wooden crate, Lucas looked at the invisibility cloak falling to the ground. "Harry, can I see your invisibility cloak?" "Sure." Harry picked up the invisibility cloak and placed it in Lucas' hand. The first reaction to the invisibility cloak is that it is light, very light in weight. Lucas strokes the fabric carefully. Definitely something that is not currently on the market, or something that he has never seen in his cognition. Worthy of being one of the Deathly Hallows. It is detected that the host is holding the invisibility cloak, and a series of achievements will be opened. 3 Deathly Hallows, collect 3 complete and undamaged Deathly Hallows, and you will get a chance to draw the Diamond Lottery once. Note, the collection referred to here requires the Deathly Hallows to recognize the host as the master, so that it can be considered as an effective collection. Lucas frowned, and returned the cloak to Harry. This is yet another long-running series achievement that took a long time to complete. At the very least, during the early stage it is absolutely impossible to complete. Charlie Weasley and his friends finally made it to the top of the tower. Seeing this older Weasley flying from a distance swaggering on a broom, Lucas confirmed his thoughts even more. Without Dumbledore's permission it would be impossible for outsiders to come in like this. They gave the wooden crate to them, and under the reluctant eyes of Harry and others, Charlie and his friends flew towards the distance. The young dragon was sent away and the idiot trio seemed to have lost their beloved treasure. Along the way, no one spoke. Lucas stopped when he passed the bathroom on the 2nd floor. "What's wrong?" Hermione asked softly, and the eyes of the rest followed suit. Lucas shook his head. "It's nothing, I just heard from the seniors that there is a very interesting ghost in this semi-abandoned girls' bathroom." "You mean Moaning Myrtle?" Hermione immediately thought about who Lucas was talking about while the others looked confused. "Wait, who is Moaning Myrtle?" "It's me. I am Moaning Myrtle." A shout came from the side and a ghost wearing the school robes of Ravenclaw emerged from the wall. She circled around the crowd and approached Lucas shyly. "Hi, can you tell me your name?" "Lucas Grindelwald, nice to meet you." Hermione turned her head slightly displeased. She also doesn't know why even a ghost is trying to flirt with him. "Oh, Grindelwald. Myrtle said Lucas' last name as she spun around. Suddenly, her expression froze, she looked at Lucas in horror and shouted, "Grindelwald!" Seeing Lucas nod, Myrtle immediately went back to her bathroom. Immediately afterwards, everyone heard the sound of heavy objects falling into the water. Others don't understand what's going on, but Lucas knew it in his heart. Myrtle died in a bathroom in 1946 and Grindelwald lost the duel to Dumbledore in 1945. That is to say, Myrtle has seen or heard about Grindelwald ravaging Europe. What's wrong with her? It's okay, maybe she suddenly remembered something else. Lucas looked back at Harry after answering Hermione's question. "Have you heard any strange noises lately?" "Strange noise?" Harry thought about it carefully, then shook his head in denial. Then everyone continued to move forward and Lucas glanced back at the bathroom. The exploration achievements of the 4 houses is still unfinished. He was wondering whether to go in and get the achievement points while the basilisk was still sleeping. But unfortunately, he doesn't speak Parcel tongue. Lucas frowned slightly, and finally decided to find time to try it out. Maybe learning the pronunciation like in the movie can open the secret room. Lucas, did you hear what I said? Hearing Harry's voice, Lucas finally came back to himself. What? I want to ask you, do you know who Nicholas Flamel is? Lucas turned to look at Draco. Didn't you see the Christmas present I gave you? Draco shook his head embarrassingly. In fact, I was reading Guide to Raising Dragons during the holidays. Although he expected it, Lucas couldn't help but glare at him. It's recorded in the Compendium of Famous Wizards of Modern Times that I sent to Draco for Christmas. Nicholas Flamel, the alchemist of the 14th century, is the creator of the Philosopher's Stone, and he has lived to be more than 600 years old. Oh, Merlin's beard, over 600 years old. Ron was marveling at the other's age. And Harry noticed the Philosopher's Stone mentioned by Lucas. Philosopher's Stone, Snape must want to get the Philosopher's Stone. Harry ignored everyone's doubts and started talking to himself about the cause and effect. During the Christmas holiday, I used the invisibility cloak to travel at night. At that time, I met Snape, who was threatening Professor Quirrell. Later, Professor Quirrell hid in the empty classroom and cried. We already know that, Harry. Ron reminded him. Later, I went to the corridor on the 3rd floor. Guess what I saw there? Everyone shook their heads. There was a trapdoor under the feet of a huge dog with 3 heads. I couldn't figure out what the 3-headed dog was guarding until Lucas mentioned the Philosopher's Stone. Before school started, when Hagrid and I went to Gringotts, Hagrid took something and said it was a task assigned by Dumbledore. That thing must be the Philosopher's Stone. I also saw that Snape's leg was bitten by something. He must have been trying to get in the trapdoor and got bitten by the 3-headed dog. Perhaps, even the mysterious thief who broke into Gringotts was Snape in disguise. The purpose of everything is the Philosopher's Stone that can make people live forever. Clap clap. Lucas couldn't help applauding Harry. Good guy, this analysis is exactly the same as Dumbledore's design. Dumbledore was probably too happy to sleep at this moment. His savior displayed extraordinary talents in front of everyone. Now he just needs to wait until Quirrell is defeated and the character of the savior will be completely tied to Harry. But, it's just that poor Professor Snape was wronged once again. Merlin. It's unbelievable. 5 people, 5 students wandering around the castle without sleeping at night after curfew. As soon as everyone reached the fork in the road, they heard Professor McGonagall's voice from ahead, and she looked very angry. Only Lucas noticed that the professor seemed to be waiting for them here. When I received the report letter, I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect it to be true. You are violating the school rules. I am so disappointed in you, Mr. Potter, Mr. Weasley. 20 points from Gryffindor, 20 points from each of you. Others did not escape the fate of being deducted points. Professor McGonagall looked at Lucas and said, Mr. Grindelwald, I always thought you were a steady and good student, but you are messing around with them as well. I'll deduct 40 points from Slytherin House, 20 points from you and Mr. Malfoy. Professor McGonagall turned to Hermione one last time. The brave Miss Granger of your has been hiding behind Lucas. She was like a good student who made a mistake for the first time and was caught, and she was too shy to face it. Miss Granger, I need to remind you that you are a lady and it is very dangerous to leave your common room at night, so 20 points will be deducted from Ravenclaw. Just like that, Professor McGonagall, in just a few words, a total of 100 points were deducted in total. This made everyone except Lucas bow their heads in shame. Professor McGonagall's stern gaze swept over the 5 of them. In addition, you will have detention under the leadership of the gamekeeper Hagrid. This is a punishment for your violation of school rules. Lucas' eyes lit up hearing this, the opportunity he's been waiting for has finally come. Chapter 64, A Trip to the Forbidden Forest. The Forbidden Forest is just on the edge of the school grounds next to Hagrid's cabin and is under the jurisdiction of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Along with the development of Muggle technology, the living environment of magical creatures is constantly being compressed, causing more and more magical creatures to migrate here. To this day Hogwarts has been unable to manage most of the Forbidden Forest. Lucas and others stood beside the entrance to the forest listening to Hermione recite the contents of the book she read about it. Looking at the nervousness of the children, Hagrid said with a smile, "Don't be nervous, actually the Forbidden Forest is not that scary, the magical animals inside are very friendly. That's just for you. Lucas thought silently in his heart. Thinking of the countless acromantulas in the Forbidden Forest is enough to make people terrified. Okay, now let's form groups first. Hagrid walked up to them with an oil lamp in his hand. Seeing Lucas and Hermione close together, he said understandingly. Lucas is with Hermione. Lucas, you must protect Hermione. After saying that, Hagrid winked at Lucas. Ron is with me, Harry is with Draco, do you have any ideas? Ron nodded as he looked at the dark Forbidden Forest. How about we just stay here? Looking at his appearance, he seemed very scared. Draco looked at the Neapolitan Mastiff aside, me and Harry will take Fang. Hagrid shrugged in agreement. But I need to remind you that Fang is a big coward. As soon as these words came out, Fang got everyone's attention. The big, docile dog tilted his head and didn't understand why everyone was looking at him. With everyone ready to go, they were led into the Forbidden Forest by Hagrid. A few weeks ago, a unicorn was killed in the forest. Our mission is to patrol to see if other unicorns are injured and maybe find what is hunting them. If you are in danger, remember to use your wands to send sparks to the sky, and I will rush to you as soon as possible. The road to the Forbidden Forest is not easy, the path is full of tree roots so they have to be careful where they step. While explaining the task, Hagrid held up the oil to illuminate the crowd. Once they reached a fork in the road, he pointed to the 3 roads and said, let's choose one road for each group, and just patrol around, don't go too deep, understand? Why? Ron asked, puzzled. Awoo. A deep and long wolf howl answered his question. Hagrid whispered mysteriously, there are not only werewolves in this forest, there are many, many unknown creatures, so you must listen to me. Seeing several little wizards nodding in fright, Hagrid's mood, which had been depressed because of the dragon's departure, was much better. Lucas wasn't about to waste time, so he took Hermione's hand, chose a random path and walked in. Just after walking a short distance it became extremely dark all around. Feeling his hand being held tightly, Lucas drew out his wand and pointed forward, Lumos Stella. Countless white light spots flew out from the tip of the wand and floated in mid-air, illuminating the surroundings brightly. Merlin, it's so beautiful, what is this magic spell? An improved version of Lumos, I will teach you when we go back. Lucas, you are a genius. Hermione looked at the dots of light around her, and her nervousness gradually eased. The two continued to walk forward under the starlight ring. Soon, they came to an open field where moonlight shone in through the trees. Looking at Hermione standing under the moon, Lucas took out the guardian heart. What a beautiful sapphire necklace! Like it? Hermione nodded. Lucas came behind her and put the protective heart on her. This is too precious. Don't take it off if you like it, this is a gift for you. Hermione looked at Lucas seriously, biting her lower lip lightly, she made a very important decision. Close your eyes. Lucas raised his eyebrows and closed his eyes under the other's shy gaze. The soft lips came up suddenly and brushed his cheek. Before Lucas could react, Hermione quickly backed away. Let's go, or Hagrid's task will not be completed. The little witch lowered her head and walked forward quickly. It's like Lucas behind her is some kind of scourge. Congratulations to the host for completing the new achievement, Kiss of Love, reward, 500 achievement points. Ron followed Hagrid cautiously. The two came to a bush and Hagrid stopped abruptly. Oh, that's bad. Come see what we found. He knelt down and ran his fingers across a puddle of silvery liquid. Hi, Hagrid, what is this? Unicorn blood, it seems that another unicorn has been injured, we need to find it quickly. Ron looked at the metal-like blood on the ground, and his voice became a little angry. What hurt the unicorn then? I don't know, maybe it's other creatures, maybe it's people, but the blood of unicorns can bring people back to life from the brink of death. But if you drink its blood, you will also be cursed to live a half-life. A few words from Hagrid made Ron's heart even more frightened and he tremblingly followed Hagrid into the depths of the Forbidden Forest. Just when Hagrid and the others were struggling to find the unicorn, Lucas and Hermione were staring blankly at the creature in front of them. This is a golden pony. Lucas recognized it at a glance, it was a unicorn foal. The unicorn is a magical creature that is pure gold in its infancy and has no horns on its head. At about 2 years of age, the fur turns silver and they don't start growing horns until they are 4 years old. It's not until they reach adulthood at the age of 7 that their skin turns snow white and the signature horn on their foreheads is fully grown. Lucas tells Hermione what he knows, then he quietly backed away. It's well known that unicorns like to be close to women with pure hearts and dislike men. Not long after he stepped back, the little unicorn came to Hermione with graceful steps. "Can I touch you?" The little unicorn nodded slightly. Hermione dared to reach out and touch him. "Hey Lucas, I found the unicorn, it's so cute." The little witch is full of joy. Even Lucas, who is a little far away, can clearly feel it. But soon Hermione became sad. "Hermione, what's the matter with you?" "It's okay, I just feel its emotions." The little unicorn is very sad. The little witch looked at Lucas helplessly. Lucas stepped forward and stroked the little unicorn's forehead. Perceiving that he was not malicious, the little unicorn didn't dodge. A feeling of sadness welled up in his heart. Lucas probably understood what was going on in his heart. Something happened to its mother. Suddenly a strange voice came from the shadows of the forest and a centaur stepped out of the darkness. "Hello, little wizard, my name is Ronan." Lucas and Hermione introduced themselves as well. Hermione looked at the unicorn foal and said, "Mr. Ronan, you said something happened to its mother? Was it hunted?" "That's right." Ronan nodded. He looked into the sky and murmured, "Mars is bright tonight. Little wizards, you should go back, the Forbidden Forest is very dangerous at this moment." Just as he was talking, a centaur appeared from the darkness. "Bane, have you found that guy?" The new centaur looks much stronger than Ronan. The other party shook his head. Apparently, they were also looking for the guy who hunted the unicorns. At the same time, Draco and Harry also walked deep along the forest path. Both of them were not timid, talking and laughing along the way. What's more interesting is that young Master Malfoy, who always needs others to serve him on weekdays. At this moment, he was holding an oil lamp, leading the way for Harry Potter. The two had just walked through the tangled woods and Fang, who was walking ahead, stopped. "What's the matter, Fang?" Just when Harry was about to squat down and ask. Draco pulled his robe and said, "Front, look ahead." Harry looked up, and what he saw was a unicorn lying on the ground. Next to the unicorn, there is still a humanoid creature lying on its stomach, but it is covered by a black robe and cannot be seen clearly. "Harry, run away." The two turned and ran back, but Harry accidentally tripped over a tree root. Looking at the black shadow floating towards him, Harry was terrified inside. At the same time, he also felt a burning pain on his forehead which made his vision blurry. He reluctantly backed away, hoping to avoid the attack of the shadow. "Come on! Hagrid, Lucas, come on! Wow wow!" Fang's bark spread far away, and at the same time, a red spark flew into the sky. Lucas, who was looking after the little unicorn, saw the sparks in the sky first. "No, someone is in trouble." Lucas took Hermione's hand and rushed towards the direction of the signal. The little unicorn hesitated for a moment, then ran after the two of them. Others may not understand what happened, but Lucas knew that Harry must have met Voldemort. But he wasn't that worried because at this moment Voldemort really wasn't necessarily Harry's opponent. He came to suck the blood of the unicorn, which proved that he's extremely weak. While Lucas and Hermione were on their way, Hagrid and Ron also happened to be running from afar. Seeing Harry sitting on the ground, several people rushed forward to comfort him. "Thank you very much for your help, Firenze." Hagrid came to the centaur to thank him. "This Mr. Firenze will be the divination professor at Hogwarts in the future. In fact, every centaur has the ability to use divination." After Hagrid introduces a few people to Firenze, everyone asked Harry what happened just now. Harry said exactly what he saw, but he withheld Firenze's words. Because what the other party said was too unbelievable. Firenze actually said that the man in black robe floating around was Voldemort, and Harry, who always thought Voldemort was dead, couldn't believe it. "Harry, where's Draco?" Hearing Lucas' question, Harry looked around quickly. Draco, who should have been behind him, has disappeared and only Fang was left squatting there. Hagrid's expression immediately became tense. The Forbidden Forest at this time is very dangerous, so they must find Draco quickly, or there is a good chance that something bad could happen to him. "Hermione, you guys go together to search for him, and I'll go the other way alone. Firenze, please can your centaur tribe find a platinum-haired boy, we would be really grateful." Lucas quickly said to everyone. After several people agreed, he drew out his wand and walked towards a certain direction where Draco had disappeared. Meanwhile, Draco shook his head as he awoke from a coma and remembered that Harry was in danger. He shouted to the surroundings for help, but seeing that no one came, he planned to go back to rescue Harry. He remembers that when he drew his wand, he seemed to be pulled by something behind him. Then he felt a huge force that made him fly backwards, and in the process, he seemed to hit a tree trunk and passed out. Hiss! He held the back of his head and sucked in a breath of cool air. Looking around, he found himself in a cave, and just as he got up and was about to find his way to leave, suddenly, he heard rustling sounds from all around, and immediately afterwards, countless tire-sized spiders appeared in front of Draco. Without waiting for him to scream, a deep voice came from the depths of the cave. Oh, welcome, little wizard. The voice just fell and a huge 8-eyed spider crawled out from the depths. Draco swallowed nervously. Responding quickly, he drew out his wand and pointed it at the giant spider. Chapter 65, Aragog the Acromantula. Little wizard, don't be nervous, where are you from? The giant spider asked Draco in a gentle tone. I am a student of Slytherin House. Oh, Slytherin. Draco didn't notice that when he said he was from Slytherin House, a cold light flashed through the eyes of the giant spider. This spider is an acromantula called Aragog and got this name from Hagrid. Yep, it's that guy Hagrid's pet again. Because of something that happened 50 years ago, Aragog has a strong hostility towards the Slytherins. These are things that Draco doesn't know. After he saw that the giant spider in front of him could communicate, immediately began to recall the content of the book Monsters and Their Origins in his mind in hopes to find a way to deal with giant spiders. After a minute or so, he suddenly made a strange movement. This is the action that acromantulas do when communicating and saluting. Surprisingly, the acromantulas in the cave all made the same gesture. Seeing this, Draco was relieved. Dear Mr. Spider, I'm sorry to bother you, but I had already appeared here when I woke up. If you are willing to let me go, the Malfoy family will express their sincerest thanks and the richest gift to you. No. I don't want any thank you, let alone the Malfoy family. Draco's heart sank at Aragog's answer, and the spiders gradually started shrinking the encirclement. A drop of cold sweat slipped down Draco's forehead. Dear Mr. Spider, what do you need? As long as our Malfoy family can do it, you can ask for it. He was speaking, and at the same time his eyes were looking for anything he could use to escape. But there are spiders everywhere, even the top of the cave is covered. Aragog saw through Draco's little trick, and laughed softly. Little wizard, I have lived in this forest for 50 years. I promised Hagrid that my children and I would not take the initiative to go out of the forest to hunt. However, I never said that I would let off the prey that intruded into my territory. My children have been hungry for a long time, little wizard. Looking at the spider swarm approaching him, Draco immediately pointed his wand at the ground. Incendio. The raging flames immediately surrounded him, and the surrounding spiders retreated one after another, which gave him a brief respite. Dear Mr. Spider, the Hagrid you are talking about is Rubeus Hagrid, that half-giant. That's right. Oh Merlin, that's great, I'm friends with Hagrid, he's nearby, if you don't believe me I can find him. Draco seems to find hope, little did he know that what greeted him was complete despair. Little wizard, you shouldn't mention Hagrid's name. Although I ordered my children not to hurt him, you don't naively think that I will obey his order and let you go. Oh, I've said enough, my children are hungry, and since you said Hagrid was nearby, I can't waste my time. Aragog let out a hum when he finished speaking. This is the unique language of spiders. The little spiders around became irritable upon hearing it and rushed at Draco. Facing the little spiders rushing towards him one after another, Draco waved his wand again and again. Diffindo. Conf Ringo. Incendio. Looking at the spiders that can't be killed, he suddenly felt remorse in his heart. If he learned more spells on weekdays he would not become so helpless in times of crisis. Whether it's a cutting spell or a crushing spell, it's fine against a single spider, but he faced too many spiders, too many to count. The surrounding flames gradually became smaller and it won't be long before they go out. He knows that when the flame is extinguished, it is the time of his own death. A breeze blew through the cave and the last flame was completely extinguished. Draco put down the wand in his hand, as if intending to give up resistance. Knowing the end of his life was coming, he thought of his good friends Lucas, Pansy, Blaise. He also thought of the professors at school. Finally, of his parents at home. What are his parents doing at this moment? If they get the news of his death, his parents should be very sad, right? In the end, he thought of Harry. He didn't know if Harry was out of danger or not. He looked around, and countless spiders swarmed. It turns out that this is the feeling of dying. He suddenly found himself hallucinating because in front of his eyes he actually saw an elegant black panther among a group of spiders. The panther's roar shook off the little spiders around and Draco rubbed his eyes. Realizing that this is not an illusion, and in front of him, a black panther really appeared. Hogwarts Castle. Professor McGonagall walked into the headmaster's office with a nervous expression on her face. Professor Dumbledore, something serious happened. Dumbledore, who was reading a book, looked at her puzzled. Only then did he notice that behind Professor McGonagall were Professors Flitwick, Sprout, and Snape. The presence of the heads of the four houses made Dumbledore even more curious. Calm down, Minerva, tell me what happened. Hagrid has word that they have found unicorn poachers in the Forbidden Forest. Dumbledore nodded slightly. Not only did he know there were poachers, he also knew that someone is hunting unicorns. Tonight he punished Harry and others by sending them to the Forbidden Forest. He just hoped that Harry could learn the news that Voldemort was not dead through the mouth of the centaurs. In this way, when he faced Quirrell, he would not be frightened by Voldemort's sudden appearance. And then? What happened? Draco Malfoy is missing. He's gone missing in the Forbidden Forest. Snape went straight to the point. Upon hearing his words, Dumbledore stood up from his seat immediately. What? Dumbledore looked very surprised. This was clearly not what he had planned. The status of the Malfoy family in the British wizarding world is not ordinary. Many officials of the Ministry of Magic have a close relationship with Lucius Malfoy. And the Malfoy family is also one of the trustees of Hogwarts. In the case of Draco Malfoy, if something happened to the future heir of the Malfoy family, that would be really bad. We meet at the entrance of the Forbidden Forest. Dumbledore looked aside at his Phoenix Fox. Accompanied by a phoenix cry, he and Fox disappeared with a wave of fire. Hogwarts School doesn't let people apparate, but it can't stop the Phoenix from teleporting. Entrance to the Forbidden Forest. Hagrid, who had already received the news, was waiting here with a few young wizards. Flames flickered and Dumbledore's figure appeared. Hagrid, how's the situation? Hagrid shook his head and said, we have searched around the accident site, but there is still no sign of Draco Malfoy. A&D. Hagrid hesitated for a moment, then continued under Dumbledore's gaze. And Lucas Grindelwald, who went looking for Malfoy, is gone. Headmaster Dumbledore, please, you need to find them both. Hermione said anxiously. Harry also had an anxious expression on his face, and as for Ron, it was considered polite of him not to snicker. Dumbledore reassured everyone. When he heard that Lucas Grindelwald was also missing, for some reason, his heart suddenly relaxed a lot. This is very strange. In this time of crisis Dumbledore chose to believe in the cunning blonde boy. Don't worry, I'll go in now to find their whereabouts. Hagrid, wait a moment, the other professors will come and you need to tell them what you know. Getting an affirmative reply from Hagrid, Dumbledore glanced at Fox in the sky. Under the leadership of the Phoenix, his figure quickly disappeared into the Forbidden Forest. The panther roared again, then it changed back to human form under Draco's astonished eyes. Lucas. Seeing his friend appear in front of him, a tear appeared in Draco's eyes. Look who is crying. Oh, it's our Master Malfoy. Should I tell Peeves about it? I believe that with his help, the whole school will know how embarrassing you are by tomorrow. Lucas' teasing succeeded in provoking Draco's anger. Seeing the other party's pale face return to rosy, only then did Lucas look at the giant acromantula in the cave. Oh, I'm so lucky today, more prey came to my door on its own initiative. Hey? It turned out to be you, Aragog. How come you, who only dared to hide in a box 50 years ago, are in the Forbidden Forest now? Lucas looked at the little spiders around and said, Merlin, these are not your children, are they? His surprised appearance made Aragog very proud. Spiders know how to be proud as well. Just when it was about to reply he heard Lucas say again, but I heard that you seem to be the only acromantula in the Forbidden Forest. Then the question is, how did you lay these eggs? And who did you lay them with? Shut up already, my children, kill him. Aragog was furious, and the little spiders around him became more violent than before. Lucas put a teasing smirk on his face but his eyes stared coldly at the acromantula opposite. Big words. At this moment, a small spider suddenly jumped out from one side and its fangs gleamed coldly as it performed the sneak attack. Lucas swung his wand holding right hand at the spider and a silent shattering curse was shot. The little spider was smashed into pieces by the spell in the air. And that's not all, the spell carried a powerful magic power and continued on its path smashing all the spiders on a line into mush. It is detected that the host is completing the achievement, Spider Killer. Every time you kill an Acromantula, you can get 1 achievement point and you can get 500 achievement points for killing the Spider King Aragog. Achievement points accumulated so far, 11. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Aragog suddenly felt that the blonde human in front of him was different from before. The other party looked at his eyes just like he used to watch those prey. A sense of crisis rose in Aragog's heart. Seeing Aragog retreating, Lucas sneered and said, "Now you know how to be afraid? It's a pity that it's too late." Protego Diabolica. Followed by a second wave of his wand, the blue fire changed the form of presentation. With Lucas' wand waving overhead, the flames instantly engulfed the little spiders around. Several professors who were looking for the whereabouts of the two in the Forbidden Forest heard a loud noise in the distance. Immediately afterwards, a blue python soared into the sky. Dumbledore was all too familiar with this magic. He looked at Fawkes in the sky. The phoenix understood and immediately flew to the front to lead the way. At the same time, Voldemort, who was wandering in the Forbidden Forest, also sensed the powerful magic not far away. Looking at the familiar blue fire made him furious. "It's that bastard, idiot, hurry over there immediately, I will never let him go this time." Voldemort, who had just drank the blood of the unicorn, was bursting with confidence and Quirrell didn't dare to resist his master's order, so he could only rush towards where the fire was coming from quickly. Chapter 66, Voldemort appears. The blue python raised its head to the sky and opened its mouth wide as if it wanted to swallow the whole sky. Such a spectacular sight immediately attracted the attention of Gryffindor and Ravenclaw students whose common rooms were in towers. "Cool. Is that some magical creature? The direction is the Forbidden Forest. Merlin, how many unknown secrets does our school still have?" The Weasley twins looked at the scenery outside the window, and their minds started to wander. "Hey Fred, you should know what I'm thinking." "Of course George, explore the Forbidden Forest, and we'll find creatures that cast magic." "Oh! Exciting and thrilling trip to the Forbidden Forest." The twins had their arms outstretched, with an intoxicated look on their faces. In the common room, the Gryffindors who hadn't gone to sleep yet were amused by the appearance of the two of them. Neville Longbottom said at this time, "Harry and Ron are still in the Forbidden Forest, will they be in danger?" "Don't worry, the school will definitely be responsible for such a big incident. Perhaps now Headmaster Dumbledore is leading the professors to solve problems in the Forbidden Forest." The words of the twins reassured everyone a lot. But if you observe carefully, you will find that the twins' eyes are full of worry. Ron Weasley, even if they bully him all the time, he's still their brother. At the same time, Cho Chang in the Ravenclaw Tower is also worried about her friend. Looking at the fire snake raging in the direction of the Forbidden Forest, her thoughts went to a certain blonde boy. She didn't know when her feelings for that boy changed. Maybe when she saw him flying past on a broom to grab the golden snitch that was close to herself. She couldn't tell either, but she knows that right now she's afraid that something might happen to him. "Merlin, why did it become like this?" "Cho, what's wrong with you?" her friend Marietta asked worriedly when she saw her rolling on the bed with her hands covering her face. "Nothing, I'm fine." "Since you have nothing to do, come here quickly, we are discussing whether this vision is related to the school motto 'Don't disturb the sleeping dragon.'" Cho looked at the giant python above the Forbidden Forest again and said, "But isn't that a snake?" Entrance to the Forbidden Forest. Hermione and the others saw the snake head waving in the sky from a distance. The few of them are closer than the students of the castle so they can see it clearer. A wave of heat came from afar and Hermione could even smell the burning scent in the air. "Merlin, what happened? What is this blue flame?" She looked at Hagrid behind her, hoping that this adult wizard can give her an answer that satisfies her. "Sorry, Miss Hermione, I've never seen a flame like this either." "Damn it, Lucas, you must be fine." Fearing for Lucas' safety, Miss Hermione, who has always advertised herself as a lady, made an exception and uttered the first swear word in her life. And in the Forbidden Forest, the professors who were looking for Lucas and Draco also stopped to look. Although Snape was shocked by the picture in front of him, he was more worried about Draco's safety. Few outsiders know about it, but he has an excellent relationship with the Malfoys. When Snape first entered Hogwarts as a student, Lucius Malfoy happened to be the senior in the 6th grade. As a half-blood wizard, Snape was often bullied by Slytherin students in that era, and every time it was Lucius who helped him out. He is a man who knows how to be grateful, it's just that he hides his emotions very deeply most of the time. Everyone, now is not the time to watch the fireworks. Those two reckless idiots haven't been found yet. Please don't stop walking and keep moving. As soon as Snape opened his mouth, it was the familiar insulting style of speaking. Professors Flitwick and Sprout came to their senses and followed Snape to continue searching. Only Professor McGonagall remained where she was standing. Professor McGonagall, what's the matter with you? Stop looking for them, I know where they are. What? Because Professor McGonagall's voice was too low, no one heard what she said. I said, don't look any further, I already know where they are. There was a ripple in Snape's empty eyes. Where? Professor McGonagall took one look at him, then raised his wand and pointed to where the blue fire python was raging. Over there. Oh Merlin, aren't those two children a bit too unlucky? The eyes of Flitwick and Professor Sprout were full of concern. Only Snape was watching McGonagall because he knew that she must have something else to say. Fire shield. What? Snape asked in bewilderment. The name of this magic is fire shield. The blue flame you see is something similar to fiend fire in terms of power. Hearing the word fiend fire, a trace of fear flashed across the faces of several professors. No one knows fiend fire's horrors better than these professors. A fire from hell that will never go out as long as there are items that can burn. Moreover, fiend fire is so powerful that if a person touches it, they will be burned to ashes almost instantly. Therefore, fiend fire has always been one of the extremely dangerous dark arts. How could something like that appear in the Forbidden Forest? Merlin, the children in the castle may be in danger, we must stop it. Compared to the anxiety of the other two professors, Snape was much calmer. He looked at the terrified McGonagall and asked, Professor, do you know the origin of this magic? At this moment, Professor McGonagall seemed to recall the elegant and flamboyant man decades ago. Hearing Snape's question she sighed, the fire shield was created by Gellert Grindelwald. Her words stunned the others. Gellert Grindelwald, leader of the Alliance, Dark Lord Extraordinaire. An incredibly powerful dark wizard from decades ago. Even a junior like Snape, who was born late, had heard of the other party's legendary feats. Professor Flitwick looked at the flames soaring into the sky in the distance and stretched out his hand to feel the hot temperature in the air. So, at this moment, the one casting the fire shield in the distance is that kid Lucas Grindelwald. Professor McGonagall nodded, leave everything to Headmaster Dumbledore. We guard the surrounding area. If the fire goes out of control, we must work together to stop it. This is the only way to stop such powerful flames. Snape and the others nodded solemnly. Then, under the leadership of McGonagall, they all moved quickly. The cave of the Acromantula. At this moment, blue's flames were everywhere in the cave. Lucas and Draco stood in the central area of absolute safety and looked at the little spiders that were constantly turning into ashes. Congratulations to the host for destroying the Acromantula *1, reward, 1 achievement point. Congratulations to the host for destroying the Acromantula *1, reward, 1 achievement point. Congratulations to the host for destroying the Acromantula *1, and get a reward, achievement points. The system's notification tone kept ringing in his ears, which made Lucas turn off the system notifications for a while. Watching the attempt of Aragog to escape, a small flame ignited in Lucas' deep blue eyes. The python that was roaring towards the sky fell down, and the position happened to be the direction in which Aragog was escaping. Draco, come to me. Draco swallowed his saliva and hurried to Lucas. That's cool. What's this trick called? Can you teach me? Fire shield, it's no problem to teach you, but first of all, your magic power must reach the level of the 5th grade, otherwise it's easy to lose control. When Lucas practiced the fire shield, he was accompanied by powerful wizards such as Vinda and Abernathy. He would never practice it without someone watching him. Lucas made such a request to Draco. The main reason is that he is worried that this brat will use it indiscriminately after learning it, and if it gets out of control, the consequences will be disastrous. It's a deal, when my magic power reaches the standard, you must teach me. After speaking, Draco looked around and saw countless spiders coming from all directions. How many spiders like this are there in the Forbidden Forest? Why do I feel like we can't kill them all? I don't know, but there must be tens of thousands. The number of eggs laid by spiders is not fixed, and some spiders can even lay more than 1,000 eggs at a time, The acromantula is even more of a magical creature. I'm afraid only Merlin knows how many children this guy has given birth to. Watching more and more spiders coming up, Lucas raised his wand again. He waved his wand in a circle above his head and the giant fire python immediately coiled into a ball. At this time, Lucas thought of the picture of Dumbledore using a firestorm to clear the way in the cave full of Inferi and thought about giving it a try. So he waved his wand, pointed to the exit of the cave and controlled the flames. A passage suddenly appeared in front of Lucas and Draco lined with towering walls of flames. Any spider that tried to attack the two would be reduced to ashes by the blue flames. Before leaving, Lucas also glanced back into the depths of the cave and saw a big hole there. Obviously, Aragog had just escaped from the hole. What a crafty fellow! After saying that, Lucas took Draco and walked away. At the same time, the acromantulas that were attacking around also fled into the distance. The massacre is over. Not that Lucas didn't want to continue, but while the fire wouldn't burn them directly, it still raised the surrounding temperature after all the things it burnt. If this continues, Draco will end up becoming a roasted ferret. Leaving the fire's range, Lucas swung his wand to extinguish the flames. The acromantula's lair has become flat. Wherever the fire raged, not a single weed was left. Congratulations to the host for killing 13,682 acromantulas *, earning a total of 13,682 achievement points, winning the title of Golden Spider Killer. Golden Spider Killer, wearing this title increases damage by 30%, defense by 50%, and poison resistance by 20% when facing all types of spiders. Just one big fire gave Lucas more than 10,000 achievement points. It's just a pity that Aragog managed to escape. But that's fine too. Looking at the prefix of this title, there should be platinum and diamond grades after that. Keep Aragog, let it continue to have babies. Hey! I'm alive! Draco took off his wizard robe, and sat on the ground without a trace of his usual grace. Thank you for saving me, Lucas. Ah! Lucas chuckled, and sat down beside him. Just when the two relaxed their vigilance and enjoyed the coolness brought by the breeze, a green light suddenly hit Draco's body. Seeing Draco's skin gradually pale, Lucas immediately looked to the dark corner behind him. A figure wearing a black robe walked out slowly. It was Professor Quirrell being possessed by Voldemort. The light in Lucas' eyes disappeared. He turned his head to look at Draco beside him. The other party was about to sit down and rest at this time. Hey! I'm alive! Thank you for saving me, Lucas. Stand up. Lucas pulled Draco up from the ground. At the same time, with a wave of the wand, the scarf around his neck turned into a copper shield. The unique green light of the killing curse flew from a distance and the impact made a crisp ding on the shield. Clap clap clap! There was a burst of applause behind him. Lucas took advantage of Draco's inattention and hit him with a stupefy. After doing that, he turned to look at the man in black behind him. I thought it would be a long time before you came out, Professor Quirrell. Chapter 67, Voldemort's Invitation. Perimeter of the Forbidden Forest. The professors saw the blue fire disappear and understood that Lucas and Draco are out of danger. Snape walks so quickly it can be seen that he is very worried about his godson's safety. Seeing this, the other three professors could only speed up their pace to keep up with the figure in front of them. This is a pain for Professor Flitwick, who has short legs because of his goblin heritage. Back at the entrance to the Forbidden Forest, Hermione was looking up at Hagrid. Please Hagrid, take me in, I'm worried if I don't see Lucas. But Dumbledore has ordered you not to be involved. Hagrid was in a dilemma. If only Hermione begged, he could still ruthlessly refuse. But it could be seen that Harry was also staring at him beggingly, which made him hesitate. Seeing that he had shaken a bit, Hermione continued. Headmaster Dumbledore was worried that we would be burned by the flames, but now the flames are out, aren't they? Hagrid, Draco is missing because of me, please. Hagrid looked back and forth at the two young wizards in front of him. At last he sighed and said, when you go in, you must follow me closely. The two of them nodded quickly. Seeing this, Hagrid picked up the oil lamp and walked towards the entrance. Wait, I suddenly feel sick to my stomach, why don't I wait here with Fang for you to come back? They didn't force Ron to follow and agreed to his request. Hagrid led Harry and Hermione into the Forbidden Forest again. And their direction is also the position where the giant fiery python raged just now. As for the nearest Dumbledore, at this moment, he was almost at the acromantula's lair. He was most worried about Lucas meeting Voldemort. As Voldemort's teacher, even as a guide, Dumbledore knew how powerful the other's persuasion could be. "How did you know I was around?" Quirrell asked suspiciously. He thought he was very careful about lurking, there should be no trace. Quirrell didn't have the slightest bit of submissiveness that he showed in class at this point. His eyes were cold and his face was bloodless, he almost looked like a dead man. Lucas first helped the unconscious Draco to a safe position. "Professor Quirrell, the wind in the forest brings with you that sickening smell of garlic. However, I'm curious, what is the professor doing in the Forbidden Forest at this time of the night?" Lucas looked very relaxed, but his standing position put Draco firmly behind himself and the hand holding the wand did not relax for a moment. "Let me talk to him, idiot." A low, raspy voice came from the back of Quirrell's head. Lucas raised an eyebrow and the wand in his hand tightened again. As Quirrell turned, he took off the hood of his cloak and an old face appeared in front of Lucas. How to describe it? Although Voldemort at this time is better than the noseless image in the future. But that's all. He looks like a rumpled monkey now. "Oh. That's amazing, Professor Quirrell, you're conjoined twins. Didn't think we'd meet again, little Grindelwald. Sorry, I don't remember knowing a friend like you." Voldemort wasn't offended by Lucas' words. This surprised him a bit. He had thought that as the number of Horcruxes made increases, the user loses his mind and becomes more aggressive. Before he could figure it out, Voldemort's deep raspy voice sounded again, "No, we met just a few months ago in Gringotts, let me introduce myself, I am Lord Voldemort." In the silent night, the breeze blows through the forest. Lucas looked at him calmly. Voldemort also silently stared at the boy in front of him. "It's really unexpected, you are one of the few people who are not afraid to hear my name, and I did not misread you. Young man, follow me, I can give you supreme glory, surrender at my feet, kiss the corner of my robe lightly, and honor your loyalty." Ahem. Lucas waved his hand and said, "Sorry." He took a few deep breaths, suppressing the smile in his heart. "Mr. Voldemort, I don't know how you gained the loyalty of the Death Eaters, but I think no normal person would be willing to kneel down and kiss your dirty robe. What sort of name is Voldemort anyway? As for following you? Oh Merlin! Could you please find a decent body first? Your state is really unconvincing. Follow you? When your physical body was destroyed by a baby. What kind of person even tries to kill a baby? Another reminder, Mr. Riddle, my spell made such a big commotion just now. The professors should be on their way at this moment, and Dumbledore might be among them, are you sure you want to stay? Bastard, you are not allowed to mention that last name." Voldemort waved his wand angrily. The red light of the Cruciatus curse flew towards Lucas. Expelliarmus. Lucas countered quickly and his spell was quickly wiped out after colliding with Voldemort's spell. The imagined scene like Harry Potter didn't happen. Bombarda. Avada Kedavra. Conf Ringo. Crucio. Afflicto. Imperio. The spells of the two were thrown out one after another. The three unforgivable curses were used very skillfully in Voldemort's hands. Lucas didn't budge either and every spell used carries a mortal threat. The curse exchange between the two lasted for about a minute. Just then Lucas staggered suddenly. Expelliarmus. Voldemort seized the opportunity and successfully knocked Lucas' wand into the air. He floated in front of Lucas. The wand in his hand pressed against the opponent's chin. "I'll give you another chance. Surrender to me, I'll allow you to become my subordinate." Suddenly a few chuckles sounded. A strong wind blew from the depths of the cave and the robes of the two of them were blown loudly. A bad premonition suddenly appeared in Voldemort's heart. Just as he was about to step back, the blonde boy in front of him suddenly raised his head. In the deep blue pupils, there are currently two clusters of dark purple lights dancing. Plunder. Ancient elf magic is activated. There is a mysterious attraction in the palm of Lucas' left hand. Quirrell's magic power was sucked out of the body, and it continuously gathered in Lucas' palm. The purple color of the magic gives people a mysterious beauty, which is fascinating. But Voldemort was very panicked at the moment as he was desperately trying to break free from Lucas' grip. But the opponent took the first step to control the wand. Only then did Voldemort understand. The boy in front of him deliberately let him knock his wand away just now. It was a bold move. What if it was not the disarming charm that was uttered at that time, but the killing curse? The result would be quite different. Even Voldemort was terrified at this moment by the horrific scheming of the young man in front of him. "How were you so sure I'll use the disarming charm?" Of course, because my surname is Grindelwald, you must not let go of the opportunity to make me surrender, because if I am alive, I can bring you greater benefits. At this time the looting magic is drawing to a close. Voldemort broke free from his restraints and fled backwards. Lucas looked at the purple magic power in his palm, and slowly absorbed it. A faint light flashed in his blue eyes. Lucas could clearly feel that his magic power had become much stronger. He reached out and recalled his wand. Lucas looked at Voldemort, who was wary of him. Just as he was about to start the second round of duel with the opponent, several people's calls came from the forest in the distance. Lucas, Draco, where are you? Merlin, you must be careful. Lucas. It was the voices of Hagrid, Hermione, and Harry. Lucas shrugged his shoulders to Voldemort. It seems that the professors should be here soon. Mr. Voldemort, are you sure you don't want to leave yet? Bastard, I will remember this. Dare to reject the great Dark Lord. When I return, I will definitely not let you go. Lucas nodded perfunctorily. Yes, that's right, the great Dark Lord Gellert is awesome. You're welcome to try again next time. The voice just fell and he raised his wand. Expelliarmus. Voldemort manipulated Quirrell's body and raised his wand to block it. But he didn't know that this spell was not as simple as a disarming spell. Voldemort looked in amazement at the wand that was gradually cracking and finally falling apart. He couldn't figure it out. Why would the disarming charm cause such a result? But he has no time to stay and study carefully. Voldemort threw down the broken wand in his hand, turned into a cloud of black smoke and flew into the depths of the Forbidden Forest. It wasn't until the other party left for some time that Lucas finally relaxed his grip on his wand. If it weren't for plundering part of Quirrell's magic, he probably couldn't hold it anymore. The fire shield from before had cost him a lot of magic power. It is already not easy to fight Voldemort, even as weak as he currently is. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new achievement, Repelling the Darkness. Reward, 200 achievement points. Ding, congratulations to the host for triggering the ultimate achievement. Ultimate achievement? Lucas immediately turned on the system, ready to see what the ultimate achievement is. Chapter 68, The Ultimate Achievement. Dumbledore appears. Ultimate achievement, Unique Demon King. Ask the host to collect and destroy all Horcruxes, and defeat Voldemort head-on to win the title of Dark Lord. Once you complete it, you will get a chance to draw a legendary lottery. Note, this achievement requires the host to complete, Unify England, and avoid the deaths of Harry Potter, Albus Dumbledore, and Severus Snape during the execution. It turns out that the higher reward than the diamond draw is legendary. Although Lucas has not won a diamond draw so far. But with Slytherin's house points at the moment, as long as Dumbledore doesn't play tricks, taking the house cup shouldn't be a problem. As long as he gets the house cup, Lucas can taste what the diamond lottery is like. System, what can I get from this legendary lottery? Responds to the host, the items obtained from the legendary lottery can make the host transcend this world or increase the dimension of this world, which is a superstandard reward. Lucas took a deep breath. It seems that this achievement must be completed perfectly. Reading carefully the requirements for the achievement. The achievement of unifying England is mainly achieved by ruling the Ministry of Magic of England and obtaining the approval of more than half of the wizards in England. Lucas has already arranged for manpower to enter the British Ministry of Magic. But if he wants to put his own people in all the important positions, it may not be possible to complete it in just a few years. The good news is that he still has plenty of time. As for the approval of more than half of the wizards in England, this is actually very simple. Just stand on the opposite side of Voldemort, and lead the people to resist with a strong posture after Voldemort returns. Therefore, Voldemort must be resurrected according to the original plan, even if Lucas has to help him resurrect. The really hard part was destroying Voldemort's Horcruxes. And among the Horcruxes, the first thing that bothers Lucas the most is the Resurrection Stone Ring. The curse was so powerful that not even Dumbledore could resist it. And not even Snape, the potions master, could do anything about it. But the achievement requires Dumbledore to be alive, which is a bit troublesome. Lucas didn't intend to let the old man die. Instead he was thinking about taking Dumbledore back to live in Nurmengard. As for Harry Potter, this accidental Horcrux. Like Dumbledore, it is necessary to destroy the Horcrux in his body while ensuring his life is preserved. The only thing Lucas can think of at the moment is the method in the original book. Make Harry the master of the Elder Wand, then give the Elder Wand to Voldemort. The Elder Wand does not kill its master, but it would kill the Horcrux fragment in Harry's scar. But Lucas still has the achievement of collecting the Deathly Hallows to complete. The achievement is very clear, he must get the Deathly Hallows to recognize him as their master before it is considered complete. Lucas frowned. It's over. My head is so itchy, it seems like my brain is about to fall out. Forget it, better start with the easy ones and look for opportunities to go to the room of requirement to get Ravenclaw's diadem first. He didn't expect it either, just in his first year and he already triggered so many long-running series achievements. It seems that I need to make a plan when I go back. This is really a thrilling and exciting challenge. There was a strong confidence in Lucas' eyes. Challenges are more fun. If he always follows the steps, wouldn't he become more and more boring? Letting out a long breath, he turned to look at a big tree behind him. Professor Dumbledore, are you there? Clap clap. What a wonderful spell, if Professor Flitwick sees it, he will be proud of having an excellent student like you. Dumbledore was wearing a colorful nightgown and a pointed hat with stars and moons on his head looking like a caricature of Merlin. Long time no see, Professor, we haven't spoken since Halloween, and I haven't asked you, did you like my Christmas present? Seeing the smile on Dumbledore's mouth soften, Lucas felt much better. Oh, of course I do. Wool socks and sweets are my favorites, and thanks for the game console, even though I don't know how to use it. By the way, have you read the book I gave you? Lucas nodded his thanks. Then the two fell into a brief silence. Dumbledore stared at the boy in the moonlight, mentally comparing him to Grindelwald. Soon he found out that Lucas is much stronger than the young Gellert Grindelwald. At least with such a large fire shield, Gellert couldn't do it when he was young. Lucas was also wondering at this moment why Dumbledore had come. He didn't know how long Dumbledore had been here. Even more uncertain about the purpose of the other party coming alone. Was he really worried about him and Draco? Lucas shook his head mockingly, maybe he was, but definitely not much. Lucas, I think we should have a good talk, what do you think? Of course, Professor. Lucas didn't refuse as he would like to hear what the old bee was up to. Seeing Dumbledore motioning for himself to approach, Lucas looked worriedly at Draco lying on the ground. Don't worry, Snape and the others will be here soon, and Mr. Malfoy will be fine. Oh well. Lucas and Dumbledore disappeared from the Forbidden Forest under a flash of phoenix fire. Not long after the sound of chaotic footsteps came from afar and the teachers arrived soon after. Looking at Draco Malfoy lying on the ground, Professor Snape ran forward to check his condition. It's okay, it's just a stunning spell. Enervate. A white light flashed along with the wand waking Draco from his sleep. Professors. Draco, what happened, where is Lucas? Hermione anxiously asked about Lucas' whereabouts. Lucas. Draco shook his head. Remembering the picture he saw before passing out. We escaped from the Acromantula's lair, and someone attacked us. It was the killing curse. Oh Merlin, are you sure you saw it correctly? Is it really the killing curse? Draco looked at Flitwick with a serious expression, he was very sure that he was right. The expressions of the professors immediately became serious after hearing this. The 3 unforgivable curses are called unforgivable curses for a reason. It is because they are too powerful and cruel. Whether it is the killing curse's instant death, being tortured by the Cruciatus curse, or controlled by the Imperious curse. It is unbearable for ordinary people. The Ministry of Magic expressly forbids their use and anyone who's found using them will be immediately sent to the wizard prison of Azkaban. By the way, where is Lucas? I saw him fighting against the opponent before I passed out. Snape said in a low voice, you were the only one here when we arrived. Sobbing came from behind, Hermione was crying behind Hagrid's back, it was obvious that she was very worried about Lucas' situation. Professor McGonagall stepped forward to comfort her, don't worry, Mr. Grindelwald is the most excellent and powerful little wizard I have ever seen, he will be fine, trust me. Maybe he just left with Headmaster Dumbledore first, and everything is still unconcluded, don't be sad. Hearing Dumbledore being mentioned, everyone thought of this centenarian. Although he is old, he is stronger than anyone present. Since he hasn't appeared, maybe he was really with Lucas. While everyone was worrying about Lucas. At the moment, he is sipping hot black tea on the sofa in the headmaster's office. He and Dumbledore had been back for a while. Neither of them spoke first. Each person has a cup of black tea, as if they intend to dispel the chill from their bodies first. Lucas, I am surprised by your strength. If I read correctly, the fire shield just now should require the level of an adult wizard to cast it. Lucas didn't give a precise answer. In fact, because it is a combination of fire shield and other spells, Lucas consumed much more magic than he imagined. But Dumbledore didn't know it, and thought it was Grindelwald's improved fire shield charm. But this is also good, just to confuse the old man. Seeing that Lucas didn't speak, Dumbledore thought he was right. He couldn't help saying with emotion, "You are the most powerful little wizard I have seen in the past few decades. Your power is beyond doubt, and your talent is even more enviable." Lucas was drinking black tea, thinking silently in his heart. Maybe he's more powerful than most wizards now. But after all these years in the wizarding world, what kind of people hasn't Dumbledore seen? Let's not talk about it. Let's just say that Voldemort was decades ago. Wasn't he excellent enough when he was in school? Seeing that Lucas didn't respond, Dumbledore knew it too. Facing the young man in front of him, the usual methods of fooling the little wizards were useless. He needs to talk to the other person as an adult. Dumbledore put down his teacup, with his glasses reflecting a bright light. "Lucas, how about we do another deal?" Hearing this, Lucas immediately raised his head, with interest in his eyes. Chapter 69, The Deal is Done, Dumbledore is schemed. We're at almost 800 power stones, so I will give 4 extra chapters. If we still reach 1k before they reset the power stones tomorrow, I will give the other extra chapter then. With that said, there's 5 chapters today, enjoy. Seeing he got Lucas' interest, Dumbledore breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't understand why he did this either. Since the Halloween talk, he always felt a little bit of pressure when facing the young man in front of him. He is already over 100 years old, just arranging for Harry and Voldemort had taken up most of his energy. He didn't want to have to worry about Lucas scheming against him every time he talked to him, so the best way is to not meet each other. But this time is different. Harry still lacked someone who would guide him all the time. Dumbledore had previously planned to have the clever Miss Granger befriend Harry, but it was destroyed by Lucas at the beginning of school. Draco later became friends with Harry. After observing for a long time, Dumbledore came to a conclusion. Draco Malfoy was a spoiled child who couldn't help Harry in critical moments. On the other hand, Lucas Grindelwald is a good candidate. Excellent, powerful, calm, shrewd. Such a person is too suitable to be Harry's guide and help him to the final victory. Dumbledore took a deep breath and asked, "Lucas, what do you think of Muggles?" "Muggles? No opinion. I like Muggle technology, but I prefer to make their money. But it is undeniable that Muggles are really powerful. Since the last war, they have become more and more oppressive. I don't know when we will be discovered by Muggles in the future, but I think when Muggles discover us, it may be the beginning of a new round of witch hunting." Listening to Lucas' statement, Dumbledore was silent for a long time before speaking again. "So you agree with the Muggle threat theory?" "It's true, Professor. Muggles are indeed much stronger than we imagined, and their individual weapons can even shoot us from a mile away. But what about our spells? Can they hit enemies a mile away? They can shoot us before we even know it." Dumbledore was silent again, and then retorted, "The fact is that the Muggle Prime Minister knows about wizards." Lucas sighed inwardly. He is actually very clear. Many wizards in the wizarding world look down on Muggles, especially the pure-blood wizards. If these words were spoken to Lucius Malfoy today, the blonde ponce would probably scoff. As a canary in a cage, many pure-blood wizards also believe that a single wand is invincible in the Muggle world. Dumbledore doesn't have that old concept though. But as the greatest wizard of the century, he doesn't feel any threat. Seeing Dumbledore wanted to talk about it, Lucas sighed, "Forget it, let's not talk about this topic, we will talk about the future. You just need to know that I don't look down on Muggles, on the contrary, I would like to make friends with them. In my company in the Muggle world, more than 90% of the employees are Muggles, and we get along very well. So, now can you tell us about our deal?" Dumbledore nodded, and took out a new box of candies to place on the round table. "Lucas, I'm old, I don't have enough energy to do many things. Did you see him today?" "Voldemort?" Lucas asked. Dumbledore nodded. "You are more courageous than many wizards. Many people in the wizarding world dare not call Voldemort by his name directly, and only dare to use you-know-who instead. Since you have met Voldemort, you also know that he is not dead, or that he has not reached death in the true sense." Seeing Lucas nod, Dumbledore continues, "Professor Sybil Trelawney made a prophecy 11 years ago. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. Harry? Lucas asked, pretending to be surprised, and Dumbledore nodded affirmatively. Lucas, I can feel my power fading, and I'm afraid there will be surprises in the future. I can't always be by Harry's side. Harry also needs someone to guide him on the right path, so you chose me, didn't you? Dumbledore nodded, waiting for Lucas' reply. Sorry, allow me to refuse. Lucas, you. Please hear me out, Mr. Headmaster. Lucas interrupted. You should know who I am. Harry and I are always together, which will cause a lot of unnecessary trouble and suspicion. I really hate trouble. Secondly, no one knows when Voldemort will return, considering his current state. With all due respect, any elite Auror could take him down as he is now, and there's also no way I would protect Harry for the rest of my life. Hearing this, Dumbledore hastily interjected, it doesn't need a lifetime, just 7 years in school. As soon as he finished speaking, Lucas shook his head. Impossible, 7 years is too long, 2 years at most, and these 2 years include this year. Professor Dumbledore needs to help me solve the seized properties in Paris and Berlin, and ensure that the shops can reopen. This. Dumbledore frowned. What? This should be a small problem for you, and with your prestige in the 2 countries, it can be easily done. I didn't mean that. It's just that the protection period is too short. How about 5 years? When Harry enters the 5th grade, he should have the power to protect himself. 2 years, only 2 years. Lucas said with a firm tone. To do business, of course, it is the most cost-effective to sign a short-term contract. As long as the service is good, if you want to sign another contract next time, it will be another price. Mr. Lucas the Profiteer Grindelwald's little plan was clinking. Dumbledore was silent for a long time. Looking at Lucas sincerely, my energy is getting worse day by day, since I am an old friend of your father, how about 3 years? Oh who? Playing the emotional card? Professor, as far as I know, the reason why my father didn't step out of the Tower of Nermengard was because he lost to an old friend and kept the agreement between them. Lucas finished speaking, making Dumbledore freeze. Although he knows it's not good to say that in person, he couldn't help himself. Old B has been enjoying Hogwarts every day all these years, while his father locked himself in a room on the high tower of Nermengard. Just thinking about it makes him angry. Lucas took a deep breath, and was about to ask if he wanted to continue the transaction. But listening to Dumbledore's lost tone. In order to fight against Voldemort, I set up a non-governmental organization called the Order of the Phoenix. If you agree to help Harry, I will give it to you. People in the organization will also help you to assist Harry, so that you don't have to work too hard. How about it? Lucas didn't reply right away, and alarm bells were ringing in his mind. I can't, the old bee has no good intentions, he's digging a hole for me. Not to mention that the Order of the Phoenix was built on Dumbledore. Even if it was handed over to Lucas, those in the Order of the Phoenix would not obey his orders. Secondly, just relying on the few unreliable people of the Order of the Phoenix, he wants to exchange for the help of his entire alliance. Dumbledore's little scheme was just too much. Sorry, Professor, I don't want to be the leader of some non-governmental organization, you should hire someone else. However, if you promise me 2 conditions, 3 years is not impossible. Originally, Dumbledore was a little disappointed, but unexpectedly, Lucas chose to extend the deal. What? Looking at Dumbledore's curiosity, Lucas said with a smile, during the holiday, the reopening of my stores in other 2 countries will be held in the French trial court. I need you to accompany me to attend. Dumbledore frowned slightly, and in a few seconds, he readily agreed. Anyway, he had made a move to protect Lucas last time. The first time is raw and the second time is cooked, this time is not bad. Second point, I am more interested in the Philosopher's Stone, I need to study it for a day, don't worry, I promise to return it to you intact. Okay. It's a deal. Dumbledore agreed more readily this time. With the deal done, Lucas had the Phoenix Fox send himself back to the Forbidden Forest. When Lucas left the office, Dumbledore changed his disappointed expression from just now. Just providing a shelter and a stone that was about to be destroyed, in exchange for Harry's peace of mind for 3 years, this deal is a good deal. Dumbledore seemed quite pleased with his performance. But he doesn't know that because of the ultimate achievement, even if he pays nothing, Lucas still needs to keep Harry alive until the finale. Not only Harry, but even Dumbledore himself was under protection. Forbidden Forest. Accompanied by a flash of fire, Lucas returned to the Acromantula's lair. At this time Snape and the others had already left. Lucas stretched and was about to go back when he heard Hermione's sobbing call not far away. "Lucas, where the hell have you been?" Chapter 70, Impure Parcel Tongue Cursing. Going back to the moment after Lucas disappeared from the Forbidden Forest, Professor McGonagall led the crowd to look for Lucas' whereabouts. Several people turned the Acromantula's nest upside down but still found no trace of Lucas. "Hagrid, are you sick? Why are you sweating so much?" "No, it's nothing." Hagrid was very worried. He is too familiar with this place, it is the territory of his pet Aragog. The thought of Lucas fighting Aragog disappeared. He was more worried about the recurrence of the events 50 years ago. In fact, until now he still has a record in the Ministry of Magic, and if it is confirmed that a student had an accident in the Forbidden Forest, the Ministry of Magic would probably think of him first and put him in Azkaban without even giving him a chance to defend himself in a fair trial. After all, he is a half-giant, so he has very little rights in the wizarding world. Harry looked at the guilty Hagrid very puzzled, then he realized that it was Hagrid who led them into the Forbidden Forest today and he may be afraid of being punished. "Hagrid, don't worry, Lucas is strong, he will be fine." After searching for a while, Professor McGonagall suggested going back to the castle first. Maybe Lucas had already gone back with Dumbledore. Hermione was still worried though, but seeing that the professors nodded in agreement, she had no choice but to follow and go back to the Ravenclaw Tower. "Hermione, are you all right? What happened in the Forbidden Forest just now? You're worrying me to death." Hermione had just returned to the Ravenclaw common room and Cho greeted her with a worried face. "Cho, I'm fine." Hermione doesn't look like she's okay right now. It's just that everyone thought she was just frightened, so they didn't continue to ask. Another hour or so passed and the students in the common room also returned to their rooms to rest. Hermione came out of the dormitory fully dressed, and holding a wand in hand, she returned to the Forbidden Forest. "Lucas! Can you hear me?" "Awoo!" The howling of wolves in the distance startled the little witch, since she had long heard that there were werewolves in the Forbidden Forest. But thinking that there is still no news of Lucas until now, she suppressed the fear in her heart and with firm eyes, walked deep into the Forbidden Forest. "Lucas, where the hell have you been? My beautiful lady, may I help you?" A familiar voice behind her made Hermione stop. She turned around sharply and saw that the person she was worried about was standing under a big tree and looking at her. She didn't know why, but seeing the smile on his face, Hermione, who was still worried, became very angry. She didn't say anything, but walked towards Lucas step by step. Just as Lucas was about to tell Hermione that he was fine, he was staggered by a huge force. "Laughing? I'm almost dying of worry, but you're still laughing. Where did you go? Why didn't you show up until now? Do you know how worried I am, you bloody bastard?" The little witch's anger took Lucas by surprise. Fists rained down on him and he had no choice but to admit his mistake and apologize first. Looking at the tears in Hermione's eyes, Lucas pulled her into his arms. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't just disappear without saying anything, I promise to tell you first no matter what I do in the future." Hermione struggled twice, then relaxed in his arms when he didn't let go. "You bastard, you really make people worry." Hearing the little witch whimpering, Lucas breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that her anger was gone. "I'm sorry, I won't do it next time, and thank you for coming to find me." The two embraced and stayed like that for a long time. "Oh, so our Mr. Grindelwald knows how to go back to school." A low, monotonous voice came from the gate of the castle. Watching Snape walk in front of him with a sullen face, Lucas said with a wry smile, "Professor Snape, haven't you slept yet? Thanks to some stupid, arrogant guy, the heads of the four houses can't rest until now. Mr. Grindelwald, what do you think I should do with him?" "I'm sorry, Professor." No, you don't need to apologize. As punishment for almost burning the Forbidden Forest to ashes, Slytherin will lose 2 points. In addition, because of your stupidity and arrogance, you have delayed the normal rest of the professors, so another 3 points will be deducted. Now, go back to your dormitory immediately, or I will have to continue deducting points from my house." Lucas was about to nod when he suddenly remembered Hermione sleeping in his arms. Seeing his embarrassed expression, Snape added, "Send this dunderhead who trespassed in the Forbidden Forest back to where she should be, and then go back to your dormitory." After he finished speaking, he turned around and entered the castle with his robes billowing dramatically as he walked. After sending Hermione back to the Ravenclaw Tower, Lucas walked down the stairs to the dungeons. Hogwarts at night is very scary. At this time there is no light in the deep corridors, and from time to time, the hooting of owls could be heard coming from the darkness. Lucas held his wand all the way to the second floor, where he faintly heard someone crying. Following the sound of the cries, he came to the girls' bathroom on the second floor. Since I'm here, why not try to see if I can open the Chamber of Secrets? Lucas pushed open the bathroom door. Moaning Myrtle was weeping as always. Being suddenly interrupted, she got angry very fast. But when she saw the person who broke in, she immediately shouted in horror, "Grindelwald!" As soon as the words fell, she turned into a stream and fell headfirst into the toilet in the cubicle. Lucas ignored Myrtle's surprise and came to the round wash basin in the middle, looking carefully for the faucet with the engraved snake pattern. Soon the faucet appeared in front of his eyes. Ahem! Hiss! Lucas practiced the sound of a snake. Then tried imitating the voice in the movie and said, "Open." He waited about 30 seconds, but the mechanism of the wash basin did not respond at all. Lucas said again in disbelief, "Open. Speak to me, Slytherin, the greatest of the Hogwarts Four. Salazar, Lord of the Slytherins." Salazar is an ugly monkey. Stupid, pompous Slytherin. If Lucas tried to open the Chamber of Secrets in a serious manner at first, then the latter words are purely scolding. It turns out that Parseltongue doesn't work just by imitating it. Even Dumbledore can only understand Parseltongue, but not speak Parseltongue. As for Ron, well, he's an exception. Maybe he's a secret Parseltongue and never told anyone, or Dumbledore might have done something to the entrance. "Mr. Lucas Grindelwald." Suddenly, a strange voice came from behind. Lucas turned and raised his wand, but seeing Cedric appear at the door, he was relieved. "So it's you, Cedric, what are you doing on the second floor so late?" Cedric turned to look at the girls' bathroom sign hanging outside. The expression on his face was tangled for a long time, not knowing whether to ask or not. "I'm hungry and looking for something to eat, you." Cedric glanced at Lucas, then at the sign on the door. "Also, don't get me wrong, this bathroom has been abandoned long ago, and no one usually comes here." Cedric nodded, but he didn't look very convinced. Lucas didn't explain any more. He walked to the door and looked at the Hufflepuff boy curiously. "Cedric, I remember correctly, you should be a third grader." "That's right, what's wrong?" Lucas shook his head. "I'm just curious, you've been in Hogwarts for so long, and you don't even know where the kitchen is." As he spoke, he led Cedric to the basement. The Hogwarts kitchen is actually not far from Hufflepuff's dormitory. The two came to a portrait of fruit and Cedric looked at Lucas puzzled, only to see that Lucas reached out and scratched a pear in the painting. The pear actually giggled and immediately afterwards it turned into a doorknob. Lucas opened the door and they saw hundreds of house elves busy making breakfast for the next day. "Oh! A distinguished guest has come to the kitchen. Hello, what can Beachy do for you?" "Give me a cup of black tea, please, and prepare something for this gentleman to eat." After Lucas finished speaking, he looked at Cedric behind him who hadn't recovered yet. When he reacted, several pieces of cake and bread had appeared in front of him. "Thanks. Oh Merlin." The distinguished guest actually said thank you to Beachy. Beachy is so moved. The house elf cried with teary eyes. His appearance made Cedric a little bit uncomfortable. Lucas was accustomed to the elves' weird behaviors and was calmly drinking black tea. By the time the two left the kitchen, it was already half an hour later. Looking at Hufflepuff's common room not far away, Cedric said nervously, "Want to come to our common room? Of course I will not refuse such an invitation." Speaking of which, Lucas hasn't entered Hufflepuff's common room after so long. It seems that he will get another achievement tonight. Chapter 71, Hufflepuff's Secret. The Hufflepuff common room is just to the right of the kitchen hallway. There was a large pile of wooden barrels stacked there and behind these barrels is the common room. The entrance to Hufflepuff is the only one of the 4 houses that does not require a password, but the entrance is equipped with a resistance device. Anyone who wants to get into the Hufflepuff dorms is required to tap the bottom of the second barrel in the second row in the unique rhythm of Helga Hufflepuff, and if they were to get it wrong they would be doused with vinegar. Lucas watched as the lid of the barrel opened somewhat puzzled and asked Cedric to look. "Please. Climb in." Cedric nodded. Lucas had no choice but to bite the bullet and climb inside the barrel. Hufflepuff's common room is full of nature, herbs and specimens are everywhere. No wonder Hufflepuff's students are doing well in herbology. The whole room is dominated by yellow and black, and there are also several circular windows on one side of the wall. Standing by the window, you can just see the green grass and dandelions outside the castle. This place is really nice and warm. Just sit down if you like it, I'll get some drinks. After Cedric left, Lucas wandered around the place. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new achievement, Hufflepuff Common Room, reward, 100 achievement points. Same as before, there are only exploration achievements in the Common Room, and the overall exploration progress of Hufflepuff House has not been completed. Lucas carefully looked for hidden mechanisms in the room. Lucas, there's only some juice in the dorm, do you mind? Juice is fine, thanks. Lucas took the cup, looked around and praised, I've been to Ravenclaw's Common Room, it's full of books, it's like a small library. The Common Room in Slytherin is not that good either, it's too dark, because we're under the Black Lake. Your Common Room is way better, even though it's also a basement, but the sunlight can shine in through the windows, and there are so many plants, it's really cozy. Hearing Lucas' praise, Cedric was very happy. Actually, it's not as good as you said. Many of these flowers and plants were brought back by Professor Sprout, and others were planted by some students according to their preferences. While they chatted, Lucas' eyes kept scanning everything in the room. Until he saw the portrait above the fireplace. Is that Ms. Helga Hufflepuff? That's right, the founder of our house. Cedric looked at the portrait with pride written all over his face. The witch in the portrait is slightly fat, wearing a yellow and black wizard robe, but the most eye-catching thing is her smile. Helga Hufflepuff is a very gentle witch, and everyone who ever met her will have a good impression of her. Every time the other three founders quarreled, Ms. Helga Hufflepuff would come forward to mediate. Miss Hufflepuff, she looks like a really nice person. As soon as Lucas finished speaking, several voices came from the direction of the boys' dormitory. Cedric put his glass down shyly, apologizing before walking towards the boys' dormitory. Lucas, seeing that he is again alone in the common room, went to the fireplace. He looked at Ms. Hufflepuff's raised left hand in the portrait. In her hand, she was holding her own golden cup. Lucas had the idea of taking out the Hufflepuff gold cup. When he brought the real gold cup close to the portrait, the two golden cups coincided miraculously. Then came a sense of dizziness, and when Lucas finally came back to his senses, he was already in a stone room, with the gold cup still in his hand, and in front of him was a square stone platform. Lumos. In the light of the wand, Lucas approached the stone platform cautiously. There is only a chiseled dent in the stand, which seems that it should be used to place the gold cup, so he put the gold cup into the dent and the stone platform emitted a white light. Helga Hufflepuff's name slowly appeared on the platform. Lucas stared at it for a long time. Unsure, he wrote his name on it with his wand, and a sudden sense of weightlessness overcame him. He felt like he had been thrown into the washing machine and didn't know how many times he spun before he fell on a lawn. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new achievement, Hufflepuff's Secret Garden, reward, 500 achievement points. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new achievement, Exploring Hufflepuff House, reward, 2000 achievement points. Lucas was not happy about the sudden 2500 achievement points because he could not care about checking the system at all at the moment. What appeared in front of him was a vast grassland. Not far from him, a group of diricals, or dodos as they are called by muggles, walked by in a line. Upon seeing an unexpected guest, they teleported away one by one. Lucas looked around. Whether it is caves, woods, snow mountains, swamps, it all can be seen in this space. Even day and night can appear at the same time. It's like Newt's commander's suitcase. But Lucas can assure you, the space here is infinitely larger than Newt's. He didn't know how Ms. Hufflepuff managed to accomplish this feat in the first place. He just couldn't imagine what level of extension spell could create such an environment. Picking up the gold cup that fell on the ground, he suddenly found an extra mark on his arm. A message came from the mark. It turns out that this imprint is equivalent to a door key, allowing Lucas to freely enter this space for the first time after Helga Hufflepuff. He became the second owner of this space. That's pretty cool. Although it has long been suspected some secret room existed from each founder. But actually finding Hufflepuff's chamber, Lucas was still shocked inside. That being the case, Ravenclaw and Gryffindor must have left their own chamber of secrets back then. Almost instantly, Lucas remembered the statue of Rowena Ravenclaw in the Ravenclaw common room. Statue? Crown? He seemed to understand something. Looks like I need to go to the room of requirement as soon as possible and get Ravenclaw's diadem out. Putting the gold cup away, Lucas began to visit the secret garden that now belonged only to him. The magical animals here have formed a complete food chain. From the information he got, this space was originally created by Helga Hufflepuff to protect the magical animals that were hunted. At the beginning, the ancestors of these animals signed a contract with the place. Any magical animal that lives here must obey the orders of the Space Master. Lucas thanked Ms. Hufflepuff in his heart. Isn't this sending him an army of animals? He saw it all. There are Nundus and horned serpents. There are also Akamis that can grow and shrink, and thunderbirds that can summon thunderstorms. There are unicorns that cleanse poison and so on and so forth. More than these, there are many herbal medicines in the space, and there are even plants that have long been recognized as extinct. Lucas took a deep breath. He is going to get filthy rich. When Lucas returned to the Hufflepuff common room, Cedric hadn't come back yet, so he decided to leave. Lucas tossed and turned in his bed. Tonight was very rewarding for him. First, he got more than 10,000 achievement points from the Acromantulas. Then there was a second confrontation with Voldemort where he absorbed part of the magic power from the opponent to strengthen himself. After that, he signed a 3-year short-term contract with Dumbledore. Then he confirmed his conjecture regarding the entrance to Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets. And finally he got his own personal space full of magical beasts and plants. Oh Merlin! Hogwarts is such a place full of surprises. Early the next morning Lucas left the Slytherin quarters before dawn. He came to the outskirts of the Forbidden Forest and released his elf presence with all his strength. Not long after, a gold pony came running towards him. Chapter 72, In Search of the Diadem. Baby unicorns love being around Lucas. Professor Kettleben would have been surprised to see this. Little guy, come with me, and I will take you to a safer place to live. As a magical creature, even if the unicorn is very young, he could already understand what Lucas wanted to express. It took a few steps forward and placed its forehead in Lucas' palm, and with a soft sound, one man and one beast disappeared in place. Hufflepuff's secret garden. Lucas appeared in a forest with the little unicorn. A group of unicorns are playing leisurely not far away and sensing his arrival, gathered around Lucas one after another. I brought a new friend for you. Lucas showed the little unicorn behind him. It looks a little scared, always trying to hide behind Lucas. At this time, several unicorns who were also young came up to meet them. Just like human children, with a playmate, the little unicorn's fear of unfamiliar environments has eased a lot. Waiting until the little unicorn is fully acclimatized to the new environment, Lucas left the secret garden. It has to be said, the space that Ms. Helga has created is really amazing. After the test just now, Lucas found that as long as it is a magical animal that enters the secret garden, a contract will be automatically signed. Having verified his idea, Lucas took another look at the Forbidden Forest in front of him. His exploration of the Forbidden Forest was only a small part completed. But right now there are more important things to do. The 7th floor of Hogwarts Castle. Lucas stands in front of the tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy trying to teach trolls to dance ballet. He paced 3 times back and forth while thinking, I need a place to hide my stuff. Perceiving his needs, a door gradually appeared on the wall. Pushing the door and entering, Lucas immediately froze in place. He was sure that the diadem of Ravenclaw must be hidden here, because the layout of the room is almost the same as the original. But he never imagined that this hidden room was actually so big. Lucas looked across the endless room and immediately felt a little headache coming. Oxio Ravenclaw's diadem. Even though he knew it's useless, he still used the summoning charm to test his luck. A few minutes passed, and there was no movement in the room. Harry truly deserves to be the person who has the aura of the protagonist, since he can find the diadem in such a cluttered and enormous room. This secret room was probably used as a storage place for waste items. Dilapidated boxes, old portraits, and broken tables and chairs can be seen everywhere. He even saw a few broomsticks used by medieval wizards. Maybe it's because there's more and more scrap that the room of requirements also expands the area of the room repeatedly. Until now, the entire secret room is almost the size of 3 football fields. It was a real trial to find a specific object in such a large place. Lucas put away his wand and followed the road into the mountains of waste. 2 hours later he walked out of the room of requirement. Seeing the dust on his robes, he waved his wand to give himself a fresh clean. Damn it, where did Voldemort hide the diadem? Lucas' tone was tinged with irritation. With such a large area, he may not be able to find it in 1 year. Lucas. Hermione's voice came from the stairs beside him. Looking at the little witch holding a thick book in her arms, Lucas asked, "Going to the library again?" "That's right. Exams are coming soon. I heard that Hogwarts exams are scary." Hermione seems to be suffering from exam phobia recently. He didn't know who spread the rumors, but it is said that the Hogwarts exams are very scary and very difficult. This made Our Lady Know-It-All very anxious, and these days she's either attending class or reading books in the library. Lucas originally thought that after yesterday's trip to the Forbidden Forest, she could be somewhat relieved. But now it seems that the effect is not that great. "My dear, the exams at Hogwarts are just like Muggle schools, and you are so excellent, you don't need to worry at all." Upon hearing Lucas' address, Hermione's face seemed to be covered with a red glow. She said coquettishly, "What nonsense are you calling me? There are people everywhere. Maybe the exam is just not difficult for you." During the conversation, the two arrived at the library. The exam is approaching, and the library is full of young wizards cramming, so they had a hard time finding an empty table. Looking at the little witch who was studying hard, Lucas, who had nothing to do, found a biography book at random. After a while, he found out that the biographies of the wizarding world are actually no different from novels. "By the way, Harry and Draco came to see me just now. They seem to be investigating the Philosopher's Stone and asked me a few questions." After Hermione finished speaking, she looked at Lucas eagerly. In fact, she was still very interested in the Philosopher's Stone. "Lucas, can the Philosopher's Stone really make people live forever? Didn't Nicholas Flamel confirm it?" Lucas closed the book in his hand. "However, it only prolongs people's lifespan, and their physical functions will still degrade with time." Clever as Hermione was, she understood what Lucas meant right away and lost interest in the Philosopher's Stone. Speaking about it, during this time, Draco always followed Harry to investigate the Philosopher's Stone. Maybe they have already been to the corridor on the 3rd floor. "Merlin's beard, I finally found you." Speaking of the devil, Draco, Harry, and Weasley came from the door. Because Draco spoke too loudly, he also got a glare from Mrs. Pants. Lucas saw the books in their hands and his expression was slightly surprised. Unexpectedly, these guys would also come to study. They all came to Lucas' empty table and sat down, accidentally making a loud sound when they moved the chairs. Harry looked back at Mrs. Pants behind him and not surprisingly, he once again received Mrs. Pants's patented glare. "Lucas, after what happened in the Forbidden Forest last night, I probably already understand what's going on." Harry's words attracted the attention of Lucas and Hermione. Seeing the two top students acting like they were listening, Harry felt a little smug. "At first I thought that Snape was going to steal the Philosopher's Stone and sell it, but now I have overturned this conclusion. You may not know it, but I met that man in the Forbidden Forest last night, Voldemort." When Harry mentioned the title Voldemort, his voice was very low, as if he was afraid that the people around him would hear him. "Ahem, Harry, it's Professor Snape." Harry looked at Lucas strangely. He's talking about something important and Lucas cares more about how he addresses Snape? Harry took a deep breath and said again, "It should be like this, Snape." Seeing Lucas glance over at him, he quickly changed his words. Professor Snape's purpose was probably to steal the Philosopher's Stone under the trapdoor, but with the three-headed dog guarding it, he failed. But I believe that Professor Snape will not give up. When he gets the Philosopher's Stone, he will deliver it to Voldemort in the Forbidden Forest. "Harry, can you stop saying that person's name?" Ron said with a look of fear on his face. Harry ignored it, but looked at the crowd and continued. "Then Voldemort can live forever, regain his strength, and then he can come and kill me." At the end, Harry's voice couldn't help but rise. After he finished speaking, Mrs. Pants's voice sounded behind everyone. "If I hear loud noises from you guys again, I will have to kick you out of the library." "Sorry, Mrs. Pants." Hermione apologized hastily, then looked at Harry. Once Mrs. Pants left, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Hermione turned her head to look at the worried Harry and said, "Your worry is a little too much. This is Hogwarts, and there is someone who is protecting the stone and can stop you know who." Seeing Harry pointing at himself, Hermione said helplessly, "Dumbledore, it's Dumbledore. As the greatest wizard of this century, he's the only person Voldemort is afraid of, so what are you worried about? You're safe in Hogwarts. But we can't just watch Snape steal the Philosopher's Stone." Seeing Lucas look at himself again, Harry added, "Professor Snape. It's rare that Draco and Ron don't make fun of each other and coincide in something, the two nodded in support of their friend, thinking that Harry was right. At this time, Lucas, who had finished reading the biography, raised his head to look at them. Whether Harry is right or not, these things have nothing to do with us for the time being. It's only a few days before the exam, and I can assure you that if one of the three of you fails in the exam, it will end badly. It will even affect whether you can enter the Quidditch team next semester. When Lucas said this, he kept looking at Draco. Mr. Malfoy was still waiting for his son's results to show off to others. If Draco fails a single exam, Lucas can guarantee that Mr. Malfoy will be more dangerous than the three-headed dog. And, he didn't want them to continue the investigation at this moment. Everything has to wait until the end of the exam. This exam is the key to whether Lucas can successfully get the diamond lottery. Whoever dares to cause trouble at this time will have to deal with him. Even Voldemort and Dumbledore. Chapter 73, The final exam is coming and the Howler. Final exams are finally here, causing the first-year freshmen to look nervous. The senior students looked at them with evil grins, enjoying their fear as they kept telling them how difficult the exams were going to be. Before entering the examination room, Lucas stood in front of Slytherin's first years. I won't say anything superfluous, please remember the honor of your family and Slytherin. If I find out that you have done something harmful to Slytherin, don't blame me for being too harsh. Don't worry, Lucas, how could we cheat like that? Blaise Zabinai's voice came from the crowd. Lucas turned his head to look at the boy. The thing I'm most worried about is you, Mr. Zabinai. If you can shift your energy from looking at girls to studying, I won't be so worried. The little snakes of Slytherin laughed out loud while Zabinai looked at Lucas with embarrassment and a hint of annoyance. Hogwarts exams are divided into two parts, written and practical. The written test is the same as the Muggle school, it is all theoretical knowledge. They entered the classroom and saw that the professors had already set parchment and new quills on the tables. There is also an anti-cheating spell cast on the quills. It seems that the means of preventing cheating in the wizarding world is indeed much more convenient than that of Muggles. It's early summer now, so the huge classroom was unbearably stuffy, and many young wizards were taking the exams while wiping off their sweat. Lucas was the first to complete the test in record time. In front of everyone's astounded eyes, he handed his parchment into the hands of Professor McGonagall. Oh, very beautiful words, very wonderful answers. Professor McGonagall carefully glanced at the answers on the parchment, showing a rather satisfied expression. Looking forward to your practical performance, Mr. Grindelwald. After the written test was over, the little wizards fled from the stuffy classroom one after another. Feeling the cool wind outside, one by one they seemed to be reborn. Soon, the practical exam started and the first subject was transfiguration. Professor McGonagall stood on the podium and looked at the crowd and said, the content of this practical assessment is to turn mice into snuff boxes. The more refined and detailed you make them, the higher your score will be, and vice versa. If your box still has whiskers, consider yourself failed. Professor McGonagall waved her wand, causing dozens of mice to fly from their cages toward the little wizards. Getting the mouse, Lucas didn't cast the transfiguration spell right away. Turning mice into dead objects is very simple for him, but to make something beautiful, he still needs to think carefully. On the podium, Professor McGonagall nodded when she saw Lucas' performance. This is an exam, not a class, and there are no house points, so being the first to perform the spell will not help. Just then, Professor McGonagall saw Lucas pull out his wand. As a light shot from his wand, a snuff box with exquisite shape and bright colors appeared in front of Lucas. There is a layer of crystal on the outside of the snuff box, and on the crystal there is a beautiful ink painting of mountains and rivers. The plants and trees in the painting are vivid, as if they exist for real in the box. Oh, very beautiful oriental snuff box. Mr. Grindelwald, I think your test result this time should be an O. Thank you, Professor. The conversation between the two attracted the attention of others. Looking at the snuff box on Lucas' desk, Ron waved his wand out of jealousy. The mouse in front of him immediately turned into a kettle, but the mouth of it is the mouse's head. Hearing the screams of mice, Professor McGonagall looked at Ron and shook her head. Professor McGonagall, please give me another chance, this was an accident. Obviously, Ron's reckless behavior brought him very bad grades. When the transfiguration exam was over, everyone went to the examination site of the charms class. Professor Flitwick had long been standing on a thick stack of books waiting. Very good, have you seen the pineapple in front of you? Seeing everyone nodding, he continued, isn't it very simple to let this pineapple tap dance across the desk? He had just finished speaking when he heard a tapping sound. Lucas waved his wand and directed the pineapple in front of him to dance gracefully. For good looks. He even gave pineapple a hairstyle, and the shoes needed for tap dancing are made from the peel of the pineapple. Tap tap tap, his pineapple was like a real tap dancer moving around his desk. Oh ho! Great show, Lucas, you never disappoint. Oh, your grade is O. Professor Flitwick shouted and announced Lucas' grades. This made the little wizards in the examination room envious. Once the charms practical test was over, it was lunchtime. Hermione walked out of the Transfiguration class examination room, saw Lucas standing at the door and went up to complain immediately. I thought it was supposed to be scary and difficult, but it turned out to be so simple. The seniors were just making fun of us, but this kind of exam is really interesting. As a top student, what will you do after the exam? Of course it is to check the answers. Hermione asked Lucas for a long time, then said angrily. Merlin. I got a question wrong in the written test, so it seems that I won't be able to get a full score. Perhaps you are right and I am wrong. Don't comfort me, I can tell right from wrong. Oh, this is terrible. Looking at the little witch's expression, Lucas really wanted to persuade her not to put too much pressure on herself. But after thinking about it, he didn't seem qualified to say this. Now it seems that the one who puts the most pressure on Hermione is himself. The two had lunch and immediately rushed to the afternoon exam. Forgetfulness potion, after using it can make people forget everything. There is no antidote yet, and we can only wait for the effect of the potion to run its course. This is your exam today, Professor Snape whispered. Seeing everyone looking at him, Professor Snape frowned uncommonly. What are you watching me for? Do you think I'm going to write down the steps and tell you? Move your heads full of Ignathrum and think about it, this is an exam. The little wizards hurriedly put the cauldron on the fire and used their brain to try to recall the process of making the forgetfulness potion. This potion is not too difficult to make. After all, Lucas and the others are only in first grade. The potion mainly uses 3 kinds of materials. Lucas put the materials into the cauldron one by one according to the steps. Looking at his calm movements, there was a hint of satisfaction in Professor Snape's eyes. Although he still has doubts about Lucas, after a semester passed, the other party seemed to be behaving and did not make any dangerous moves. The most dangerous time was setting a fire in the Forbidden Forest. Good, Mr. Grindelwald. With a faint compliment, Professor Snape walked towards Draco. As the son of a friend and his godson, Draco has known Professor Snape since he was a child, and received his potion training before entering school. After watching the 2 people who made him most satisfied, Snape's eyes turned to the savior classmate. Mr. Potter, if you were in class at this moment, I would definitely deduct some points from you. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Lucas seemed to feel some hatred in Professor Snape's tone. Everything seemed to be going well with the potions test today. Until the end of the exam, there were no accidents in the classroom. Bang! Lucas never realized that he still had the potential of the crow's mouth. Stupid! Idiot! Get out of my classroom immediately! Professor Snape's roar echoed in everyone's ears. Watching Neville and Seamus run out in desperation, Lucas seemed to understand Professor Snape's mood somewhat. Whoever comes across this kind of student who has been learning for a semester and keeps making mistakes would be angry as well. The reason Professor Snape didn't suffer from an aneurysm due to anger is only thanks to the miracle of magic. The potion test is over and there's just Cuthbert Bin's History of Magic and Professor Hooch's Flying exam. For the History of Magic exam, you only need to answer some Goblin Rebellion questions. It's like some exams in the Muggle world and it only takes memorization to pass. As for the flying lesson, it is even simpler, just ride a broom and fly a few laps according to the prescribed movements. With the vigorous final exam finally over, the students could relax for the rest of the week since the results will be announced a week later. Lucas is very confident about his test results. Next, we can consider the Philosopher's Stone and Voldemort. At dinner time, Lucas sat at the long Slytherin table, staring at Harry's back. He was thinking that this trip to the playground would be without Hermione's help. How would Harry pass those traps that require a brain? At this time, the hooting of an owl came from afar and said owl flew unsteadily towards the Gryffindor table. Seeing the red envelope in its mouth, the Great Hall immediately became silent. Whoa! Ron Weasley got a howler. Accompanied by Seamus Finnegan's shout, the place immediately became lively. And with this I have paid the extra chapters, don't forget to keep voting with Power Stones, we can still reach 1K for the last extra chapter. Chapter 74, News from Big Mouth Hagrid. Ronald Weasley, what you have done is a disgrace to me and your father. If Percy hadn't written me a letter, how long would you have kept it a secret? You actually contacted your big brother privately and sent a dragon over there. Aren't you afraid of causing trouble to your big brother Charlie? Ronald Weasley, you'd better explain it to me when you come back this time. Also, when did your father and I teach you to slander your classmates? Dark Wizard? Merlin's beard, how can you say such words? If there is a next time, I will definitely ask Headmaster Dumbledore to expel you. Molly Weasley's angry voice came from the howler as Ron looked angrily at Percy Weasley who was sitting not far away. Unexpectedly, a traitor appeared among his own brothers. The howler then destroyed itself into pieces which later burned to ashes after conveying the contents of the letter. After a short silence, loud laughter erupted in the Great Hall. For a young wizard, receiving a howler from their parents in public is one of the most embarrassing things that can happen. Draco looked at Ron's blushing face that looked even redder than his hair and also saw that tears were about to pour from his eyes. The Weasley twins came to Ron, one on the left and one on the right, and proceeded to pick him up and gesture around. On behalf of Ronnie, thank you all. I would like to introduce our little brother, Ronnie Ekins. Sod off. Ron broke free from the two and yelled at them. This drew ridicule from other people in the Great Hall. In fact, the last few weeks have not been easy for Ron and Harry. The reason is that the two have deducted too many points from Gryffindor. Even their own housemates have some complaints in their hearts. Not surprisingly, this year Gryffindor will have the fewest points of the four houses. The professors who were eating looked at the lively atmosphere with a happy smile on their face. It's just that they didn't know if they were infected by the little wizard's emotions or because of Molly Weasley's howler. The following week, Hogwarts students spent it having fun every day. No classes, no homework. They gather in groups with their friends to play together. This is their ideal school life. Unfortunately, such days are too short. Wait until the results of the exams are announced. Many little wizards will never have such a good time during summer vacation as they are having now. The 7th floor of the castle. Lucas came out of the room of requirement again, looking at the door slowly disappearing behind him. His expression became a little helpless. For a week, he searched through a third of the room but Ravenclaw's diadem was not found. Looks like there's no hope of finding it this semester. The exam results will be announced today, and tomorrow night Dumbledore will announce the House Cup. The day after tomorrow Hogwarts will enter the long summer vacation. Lucas tapped his robe a few times with his wand, causing his dusty robes to become as good as new. The results are out, finally. I can't watch it. If I get anything less than an acceptable I'll be grounded for the summer. It's okay, be brave, you're a Gryffindor. Two girls walked past Lucas. After hearing what the two said, Lucas learned that the results had been announced. Walking to the front of the teaching area. A huge piece of parchment is being posted on the bulletin board which records everyone's achievements. Being enchanted, the students just need to write their names with their wands for the parchment to show their respective grades. If you are not very confident about your grades, you can choose to check when there are few people or look for it yourself among hundreds of names. Oh, look who this is! It's Lucas who disappeared for a week. I thought you wouldn't come. Hearing voices behind him, Lucas smiled slightly, turned around and hugged the other person in his arms. Sorry, I've been really busy this week. Hermione struggled slightly, but she gave up when she couldn't break free. But seeing the eyes paying attention to them as well as the envious eyes of some girls around her, it made her feel shy and a bit smug at the same time. Really, this happens every time. What are you looking for in the room of requirement anyway? A very useful alchemy item. I haven't found it yet. I will let you know when I find it. Seeing Lucas' mysterious look, Hermione hummed softly and walked to the bulletin board. As she wrote her name, Hermione Granger's results soon appeared in front of everyone. Oh! See Hermione's all O's except for one written test. There were exclamations all around immediately. The little witch turned to look at Lucas with a slightly smug expression. Miss Granger is amazing. Of course. Seeing her own results, Hermione could finally breathe a sigh of relief. At least she proved to everyone that she is qualified to stand beside Lucas. Hermione, who was completely relaxed, immediately pulled Lucas and her friend Cho Chang back to the bulletin board. Let me see your results. As a top student from Ravenclaw, the House of the Smart, Cho Chang certainly has good grades. Then the eyes of the two women turned to Lucas. All right. Lucas reluctantly pulled out his wand, making his grades appear on the parchment. He doesn't know which professor pranked him, because when his results appeared, many ribbons suddenly floated down from the bulletin board. Moreover, Lucas' results were enlarged to the entire board. Look at the golden one in front of his name. Everyone understands that this represents the glory of the first place in the whole grade. When they see that every subject under the name is O, many people couldn't help but exclaim. Harry and his friends were also in the crowd. Lucas is really good. He knows a lot and studies well. No wonder the professors and classmates like him. Seeing Lucas' achievements, Harry was very envious. Oh, come on Harry, he reminds me of Percy, that nerd, he shouldn't be in Gryffindor. Ron complained dissatisfied, he hated two people the most in his life. One is Draco Malfoy, and the other is his big brother Percy Weasley. Now it looks like there will be one more, Lucas Grindelwald. Seeing Lucas receiving compliments from the crowd, Ron felt even more uncomfortable. The Weasley twins, who had been lurking aside for a long time, smiled at each other. The two separated from the crowd and wrote Ronald Weasley on the bulletin board. What are you doing? Stop! When Ron found out, it was too late to stop it. Fred and George didn't think it was obvious enough, so they worked their magic to amplify Ron's name even further. Looking at his poor grades, the twins said with a pitiful look, "Poor Ronnie Ekins. When Mom knows your grades, we're afraid she will nag you for the whole summer vacation. She might even wake you up every morning so you can review your homework. Oh Merlin! How pathetic!" Ron looked at his grades of 2DS, dreadful, and AT, troll. He was so ashamed that he wanted to find a crack in the ground and get in. Damn, why is my history of magic grade T? How in the world can anyone answer Cuthbert Bin's questions? Harry heard his friends' complaints and didn't know how to explain them. In fact, his own grades were not very satisfactory. Before the exam he was all immersed in his detective work, too focused on the Philosopher's Stone to pay attention to his studies. But he's still better than Ron, at least no one cares about his grades. Congratulations on the new achievement, the first, only, grade reward, 200 achievement points. Lucas was relieved by the belated system prompt. As long as Slytherin gets the House Cup the next day, he will be able to get a chance to draw the Diamond Lottery. Two beautiful ladies, would you like to follow me to the Great Hall to see what delicious food is available? Hermione and Cho Chang looked at each other and smiled. Of course, handsome sir. The three top students left the bulletin board with smiles on their faces. A group of young wizards were left thinking hard about how to explain their unsatisfactory grades to their parents. The trio of Harry also left the bulletin board because Harry suddenly discovered something very suspicious. How did Hagrid's dragon egg come about? He thought it necessary to chat with Hagrid. Of course Draco has no objection since he is in a very good mood at the moment. Although the results of his exams are not as good as Lucas and Hermione, they're not too bad and they're still among the best in Slytherin. As a qualified Slytherin he couldn't let go of such a good opportunity, so all the way he said some weird things making fun of Ron. Ron was so angry that he wanted to punch him. The three of them came to Hagrid in such a noisy way. At this time, he was sitting in front of the house and playing some Scottish tunes on a wooden flute. A few simple words of dialogue and Hagrid told the story of how he got the dragon egg. I drank a lot of wine with that man. Later, the man said that he had a dragon egg in his hand and if I wanted it, we could play cards and gamble, but he had to find out whether I had the ability to raise a dragon. Who am I? So I told him that I can even make Fluffy submissive. That man seems to be very interested in the three-headed dog. But I think he should be like this. After all, three-headed dogs are so rare, so I told him that Fluffy is actually easy to deal with. He likes to listen to music, so as long as there is some beautiful music, he will fall asleep. The three of them widened their eyes in surprise. By the time Hagrid found out that he had slipped the tongue again, they were already running back to the castle. We need to find Headmaster Dumbledore immediately. The three came to Professor McGonagall and expressed their demands out of breath. I'm very sorry, gentlemen. Professor Dumbledore is not at school right now. He has received a letter from the Ministry of Magic and has left for London on his broom. Merlin, what should we do? After being reprimanded by Professor McGonagall, the trio walked out of the classroom dejectedly. Unfortunately, they met Professor Snape passing by at the door and looking at his gloomy face, Harry immediately decided to go to protect the Philosopher's Stone tonight. Harry, I think what Professor McGonagall said is right, if we continue to act carelessly, we might actually be expelled. Ron didn't seem to want to go, but Harry made up his mind, don't you understand? If Snape got the Philosopher's Stone, he might use it to start a school of the dark arts or give the Philosopher's Stone to Voldemort. At that time, we can only wait to die, so we must stop him. Looking at Harry with firm eyes, Draco always felt that something was wrong, so he decided to go back and ask Lucas later. They agreed to meet on the moving stairs at 10 o'clock in the evening, and Draco hurried to the Slytherin common room. Chapter 75, Lucas Reminder and the Cruel Wizard Chess Match. Evening. Draco frowned and came to the sofa in the common room. Lucas, I want to talk to you. Closing the book in his hand, Lucas looked at the platinum-haired boy beside him. What's wrong? Harry thinks that Professor Snape is going to go steal the Philosopher's Stone tonight, do you think it's possible? Lucas didn't answer, but asked rhetorically. What do you think? Is Professor Snape that kind of person? No. Draco shook his head in denial. Seeing Lucas' surprised eyes, he laughed and said, I have known the professor since I was a child, and I know that he is not a villain. During this time, I have been following Harry around to investigate, in fact, to prove that Professor Snape is not the villain, he said. Lucas chuckled, this is the Draco he knows, and it seems that he misunderstood this guy before. He carefully looked at the platinum-haired boy in front of him. Compared with their first meeting, Draco has indeed grown a lot. Draco, I'm glad you think so, and I'll give you a tip, if you come across a puzzle or a difficult choice, choose the smallest, most inconspicuous one. If you want to back off, remember to choose something round. His inexplicable words successfully made Draco's eyes become confused. What's the meaning of that? You'll know when the time comes, you just need to keep it in your mind. Draco nodded, and immediately reacted. Lucas, won't you come with us? He had just finished speaking when he saw Lucas shaking his head at himself. I won't go, I wish you a happy time. Looking at his best friend who got up and left, Draco always felt that he was acting very strange today. It's like he knows what's going to happen to them next. Strange. He walked aside muttering. It was close to 10 o'clock in the evening when Draco tidied up his robes and left the Slytherin common room. Mr. Baron. Lucas' voice suddenly came from the empty room. His figure appeared on a nearby chair, still holding Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the book he was reading before. Bloody Baron, the resident ghost of Slytherin. He has a thin appearance and a gloomy complexion, which fits the characteristics of a Slytherin very well. The Bloody Baron held a western sword in his hand, and his clothes were covered with silver blood. What can I do for you, Mr. Grindelwald? Bloody Baron was very polite because he could feel the deadly threat emanating from Lucas. He was also wondering, he has been dead for many years, what is it that can make him feel threatened? Mr. Baron, please follow Draco to have a look. If they encounter trouble, please help him to solve it. No problem, I'm happy to help you. The Bloody Baron flew out after speaking. Waiting until the Baron left, Lucas put away the book and followed out of the common room. Due to the deal with Dumbledore, he wasn't afraid of being seen going out by the portraits. He even wished that the portraits would go and report to Dumbledore to let the old man know that he is serious about fulfilling the contract. The Bloody Baron followed Draco from afar until he joined Harry and the other two boys. That's right, two boys. Seamus Finnegan, the demolition expert, also followed. Why is he here? To this Gryffindor student who always creates explosive surprises, Draco is certainly no stranger. Harry said embarrassingly, we met him and Neville when we came out. Neville wanted to stop us, so I knocked him unconscious. Seamus had to follow after seeing this, or report to the professor. Merlin, did he think we were going out to play? Hearing Draco's dissatisfied voice, Ron immediately stood up and defended his classmate and roommate. The quiet quarrel attracted Peeves the poltergeist. Peeves is very different from the other ghosts in the castle, and the most obvious difference is that he is not milky and transparent, but full of colors. Oh, there are a few wizard children who don't sleep in the middle of the night, and Peeves caught them. I'll tell Filch immediately, ha ha ha. Oh Merlin, it's actually Peeves. Harry looked into the air with a headache. Peeves likes to play pranks, and he likes to watch the chase game between Filch and the students. The faces of the other kids also changed, but just when they were about to run away quickly. Suddenly there was a low voice in the distance. Peeves. Peeves stiffened and looked into the depths of the corridor in fear. Peeves, who is not afraid of almost anything, is actually afraid of the Bloody Baron. Oh, Lord Bloody Baron, please forgive Peeves for his little joke. I really didn't know that you invited these people, I'm sorry to disturb you. Bloody Baron now understood what trouble Lucas was referring to. While admiring Lucas, he looked at Peeves and said, we are going to do something very important. Oh, little Peeves will not bother you, my lord. After Peeves finished speaking, he disappeared before everyone's eyes. Harry and the others looked at the Bloody Baron who was approaching. Just when he was about to thank him, he saw the Baron flying into the distance. Hey, we're saved, let's go quickly. The four of them huddled under Harry's invisibility cloak and walked towards the third floor. After a while, Lucas came from afar. Looking at the 8 feet crowded together in front of him, he sighed helplessly. At this time Peeves actually came back, and when he saw Lucas his eyes lit up. He just wanted to tease the little wizard in front of him, but when he saw the purple flame ignited in the opponent's eyes, a throbbing from the depths of his soul reminded Peeves that if he stayed any longer, he might die. Good night, little Mr. Grindelwald, don't worry, little Peeves has seen nothing, and will not say anything. After Peeves finished speaking, he turned to face the wall and covered his eyes. Lucas made his way to the third floor corridor. When he heard the conversation of Harry and others coming from ahead, he immediately cast a disillusionment charm on himself. 4 people who were busy lifting the giant dog's paw didn't notice that the door behind them suddenly opened and closed quickly. Ron, be careful not to wake up the 3-headed dog. Looking at the clumsy Ron Weasley, Draco couldn't help complaining. The two who were already enemies immediately started bickering. Lucas clearly saw Harry let out a long sigh, he probably also had a headache. He then looked at the harp that had stopped beside him and didn't know if he should remind the people who were making noise. Do you feel that something is missing? After Harry finished speaking, the 2 quarreling children fell silent immediately. Harp, the harp has stopped. Seamus Finnegan reminded. The remaining 3 looked at the 3-headed dog aside in horror and saw 3 heads and 6 eyes staring straight at them. Jump! Harry opened the trapdoor and jumped in first while the others followed swiftly before the 3-headed dog bit off their heads. Fluffy roared loudly into the trapdoor. Immediately afterwards, it raised its heads to look at where Lucas was hiding. Sniff! Noticing the change in Fluffy's size, Lucas pulled out his wand and swung it at the harp. This dog has a good nose, so before it moved to attack him, Lucas bewitched the harp to play again. The melodious music sounded and Fluffy gradually fell asleep. Walking over to the trapdoor, Lucas saw the 4 kids entangled in the devil's snare plant. Sigh. He felt like a nanny, such a simple devil's snare and they still can't solve it. Still, he raised his wand to help. At this moment, Seamus Finnegan's voice came from below. Lumos. Boom. As expected of Seamus, a simple lighting spell can actually produce a violent explosion. Thanks to the flames produced by the explosion, the devil's snare loosened and let them go, allowing them to enter the next level. Lucas also took the opportunity to jump from above. Harry, what's the matter? Harry looked behind him, he seemed to hear a very slight sound behind him just now, as if someone had fallen from a height. It's nothing, I probably heard it wrong. After Harry finished speaking, he led them down the wet passage. The way forward was dark and quiet and they could even hear their own breathing clearly. From time to time, water drops fell from the wet walls to the ground. Every time a sound is made, it makes the nervous group feel uneasy. Listen. What is that sound? Draco was the first to hear the sound of wings flapping in the distance. He quickened his pace and after turning a corner, he came to a different room. Birds were flying around in the room, and opposite them was a locked door. Walk. Harry took the lead, and they all rushed to the door quickly. Strangely, the birds in the sky didn't seem to be planning to attack them. Alohomora. Draco's wand flashed, but the big lock of the wooden door did not open. Harry turned to look at the flying birds. I know what they are now, they are not birds, they are keys with wings. Look, there are broomsticks. 3 old brooms are standing quietly in the corner. Harry and Draco looked at each other. As a seeker and prospective seeker for both their houses, it is not difficult to find a key in this small room. The 2 rode brooms and soon spotted their target. Lucas yawned from his hiding place. This is really a playground for children. How can an adult wizard need to go through so much trouble? He could pass all the way through with magic power alone. Taking advantage of them opening the door, Lucas slipped in first. The remaining human-sized wizard chest shouldn't be a problem. There's no need to worry, according to the original book, the troll in the next room should have already been dealt with by Quirrell. And the potion level has a hint from him to Draco, so he should be able to pass it easily. He let out a long breath, the time to play games with the kids is finally over. But when he walked to the wooden door leading to the next level, a roar of a giant monster came from behind the door. "Dumbledore, you barmy old man!" Taking advantage of Harry and the others not paying attention, he came to the next room. Looking at the giant monster that is half a size bigger than the Halloween one, Lucas' face became quite ugly.
Thanks for listening.